through the ether, David Lee Roth found us.
Yeah,
Just
always a
But yeah,
miracle.
you can
Hovering
use
over
it for
Renton
call-ins, or you can have audio from another
Dave.
source.
Do you guys ever listen to the David Lee Roth isolated vocal tracks?
that's a
I've
great
heard a
idea.
song or two.
It'll change your life. One of my favorite things to listen to, because it's like no Van Halen, just David Lee Roth, and you start wondering, like, was anybody listening to this in the studio? It's like,
And there's a lot of grunts and like,
Oh, dear.
I mean, it was a time. A special time. Dave.
Time of
he really
cocaine.
needed to be seen to
Yeah.
take it
Sure.
in.
you really,
Because he was the full meal deal for the times, right?
Yeah.
you really
was.
needed to be able to see the neon spandex he was grinding the camera lens with.
His spirit animal is a falcon carrying a giant kilo of coke.
I think so, yeah.
Well, just waiting on. Oh, I just was thinking about
Jeez, that's
needing
man.
some kind of music.
Intro music.
Intro music. It would be nice. Intro music is always nice.
Yeah. So that means we're live, right?
Well, I think we've been live.
Yes.
But Todd, you tell us when it's go time, and we'll get this here party started.
Right, because
Right.
we haven't been going for like.
All right.
Well.
Welcome everybody,
have been
one and all,
Thanks for
to
being here.
Our Town Podcast.
Extraordinaire.
Coming to you from the Renton Civic Theater in beautiful, beautiful downtown Renton, Washington.
Yes.
Yep, beautiful
How
Saturday.
are you, fellas?
Do it.
Very well. Very well.
We have a special guest. If you're watching this, you would know that already. We've got Dyer Oxley from the Northwest Nerd Podcast and also KUOW.
Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Welcome,
Right
sir.
on. Good to have you.
Good
To
have
be
you here.
official, just so that I don't get some union person mad at me or something, I'm here representing Northwest Nerd.
Yes.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nobody
Gotcha.
tell SAG-AFTRA.
We'll bleep that last part out and post edit. There you go.
No,
I was gonna say, does SAG-AFTRA come after people who work in radio?
no. I mean, if you really want the full the union that represents my particular station is a subset of SAG-AFTRA. We have nothing to do with the actor, writer, anything going on, because it's like a broadcasting
Sure,
division
sure.
of it. So it's totally like different and separate. But it is really convenient to get DVDs every year or like logging around like Oscar time. So
Yeah.
I have
Nice.
nothing to do with it, but they'll still send me that crap.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well,
How do we get
solidarity,
that?
Solidarity.
You have
is
to
working
join.
people
Fran
everywhere.
Drescher leaves me voicemails.
Jeez, that's what I'm talking about. You have arrived.
Wow.
You have arrived, sir.
Oh,
Yes.
Fran Drescher.
She's making it happen. I'm down.
She's got her shit together, man. Have
and
you seen her
I don't-
videos?
now is the time for us to get some of these issues on the table and hashed out, right? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
because the market has changed. Obviously, streaming's not leaving, right? So we need to
You know-
find a way for everybody to get their piece.
What it
of
brings me, I don't want to hijack because I know you guys have you guys have like an idea of where you want to go, but it makes me think of back into the Matrix times when they were pulling that out around the millennium. They already were thinking ahead, saying we want to get Keanu Reeves' image. We want to get this so that later on, if we need digital anything, we can recreate it. And I was thinking that was happening 20 years ago, and how much like it's before the iPhone, like this, how much technology has advanced
Right.
Yeah.
until then. Streaming wasn't even a thing. Netflix, I think, was sending DVDs out of one
or
town at
right
that point.
before- yeah,
That was back
wow.
then, and now we're at a point where it's like we have to catch up that far just to even get to where tech is and
Right.
the audience is.
And the marketplace.
But
Yeah.
I have a question though. Didn't oh god, I'm trying to blank on the guy's name, but the guy who played George McFly in the original Back to the Future, he had sued because they used his likeness in the second movie.
Oh, Crispin.
He wasn't dead.
Crispin.
Oh, yeah.
Crispin Glover, yeah.
Oh,
So they made a law about like being able to use someone's likeness without their permission.
jeez.
Call this,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
wish
We
I
need
knew
to
the-
reel that in. That's a bad decision.
I don't know, but I will say that I use Keanu Reeves' image pretty regularly. I have it ingrained. So that's a whole nother.
Every time I learn something else,
I know Kung Fu.
yeah, but I know how to make muffins.
And he's notoriously known for being one of the nicest people in the world too.
Yeah.
He and Will Wheaton are like vying for some kind of living saint.
Keanu Reeves tried to buy Bob's Java Jive down in Tacoma. You guys ever
that's
hear
nice.
that?
No,
No.
that's great.
Wow.
Cool place.
He was in a movie called, hold on.
The River movie.
I Love You to
Idaho.
Death.
Oh.
That's what it was. And you wouldn't recognize him because he's supposed to look like this is going to be me. He's supposed to look like an idiot, basically. He was this henchman that was hired to murder somebody, and they meet in a bar, and they meet in Bob's Java Jive, and he's playing pool on that pool table that's still there today.
Man.
And he liked it so much, he was like, I want to buy it, and actually made an offer, but he wanted to move it.
Oh.
He wanted to move it at Tacoma. I don't know how true this is,
Yeah.
but I heard that he wanted to move it to Hawaii. And they were
That's
like, no,
hardcore.
Bob's Java
Yeah.
Jive is here. We're not moving it anywhere.
No, it's totally cool. I hope it lasts.
At the very least, he should have thought of licensing from those guys to build another building because he has the money to do shit like that.
I think teapots are community commons at this point, so
Yeah,
he could probably
but
just go
if it's like in any of their merchandise or if anything they sell, it could be licensed
pretty
or
cool.
whatever, I think.
Keanu's Java Jive doesn't sound as...
Yeah, it's
It sounded cool.
Maybe in Hawaii. It's
Maybe in
Keanu.
Hawaii.
I don't know. Maybe
Too many
Keanu's
syllables.
North
like
Shore.
Bob in Hawaii.
Keanu the Java dude. And he'd be like, this coffee makes me say, whoa.
Coffee's on, dude.
Yeah. I've never seen a
Excellent.
listing of all the bands who played at Java Jive, but it would be impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like a lot.
I
of
do know
really
that
cool
when Ming
stuff.
Chen is in town, he loves going there.
I went there to karaoke with him last SummerCon. I don't know how he does it, that guy. I mean, I don't want to... He basically gets to travel and go to cons and do like pop culture appearances, which just sounds like fun enough on its own. But he also gets to travel town to town and check out the bars. He knows the food scene. I mean,
Right.
if you
Yeah.
want to know any town where there's a pop culture convention, ask Ming. He will tell you that's where the tacos are. That is where the awesome karaoke is. That's the best dive bar. And because he keeps going to these things years after year. I went out with him one night and I went back early. I don't know how he does it. He spent all day signing autographs, talking to people at Washington SummerCon, and then we went out to the Airport Tavern, and he's like, we're going someplace else. It was emo night at Airport Tavern, by the way, which was a very experience. I'm wearing the Sunny Day Real Estate t-shirt,
Nice.
and let's just say I would not fit in an emo night at the Airport Tavern. But yeah, and so then he's like, no, all right, now we're going to Bob's Java Jive. We're doing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm at water at this point. I got to go home. He's a beast.
It's all that coffee.
Yeah. Well, if he's from Jersey, so that should explain everything, right?
He worked up to it.
Yeah.
Nice.
But
Well, guys, tonight's safe word, if anybody feels unsafe, since we are doing a nerd episode, a nerdy episode.
nerds.
Tonight's safe word is Hulk Smash. So if anybody feels,
F one word.
yeah, just yell out Hulk Smash and we'll stop this here program and check on you and make sure you're safe.
Banner. We're saving the day once again.
So how does that work? Like if I feel like
If Todd's giving you a hard time
talking
over
too much
there,
about my mom or something,
yeah,
I'd say Hulk
exactly.
Smash. Okay,
Yeah, just yell out Hulk Smash. and-
cool.
Yeah,
Nobody's ever had to use it.
Nobody's
should
ever
do
pulled
that.
the emergency.
I think I usually forget what the safe word is by the time that it would even be a thing.
Todd's usually just curled up in the fetal position.
He does great.
Oh my goodness.
Well, and good night, everybody.
Thanks for coming. No, but yeah, as I mentioned, we are talking about nerd culture, nerd stuff today, because this here panel on this here set, on this here stage, enjoys most things nerd.
Hell yeah.
And I know we all have our own niches that we like, niches that we
I call them
enjoy.
niche.
Niches, yeah.
Nurses.
What are some of our favorite niches, as
man.
Mike would say?
Yes.
Well, Todd, what would be your
I mean,
number one? Is it DC?
The easy
yeah,
one is Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes without saying because I'm usually wearing a Star Wars T-shirt. While we're
If you
recording.
had a desert island one portion of Star Wars, what would it be? Like
just a
the
portion of a
animated
film?
portion, or the which films, which trilogy, which
Like
film?
eras.
Yeah, let's do
You
that.
know what? I would have to say the original trilogy.
All right.
Honestly, I mean, if I was to pick between all of them, that would have to be it. I mean, I don't dislike the new ones. I actually enjoy them quite a bit, and I come dumbfounded by people who hate them. So
I really like the new ones too, and there's a really good reason why. Because I like the originals.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're-
and that's all they are. They're just there's kind of a copy for copy, plot point by plot point of the originals. I mean, I
that's
don't
one
fault
of the
them
reasons why
for
I
it,
love them
but
for it.
it worked. Yeah.
The Force Awakens was essentially a New Hope with different
Yeah.
people, and I loved it for that reason.
And the
people
next
are like,
one
it's too much
was
like the original.
the next one after that. Were spoiler alert. Sorry, you've had a few years for this one. For the Luke guys.
Yeah. It's too late now, man. If you haven't seen it by now, it's your own fault.
So the one after that one where they go and they find Luke, which is Empire Strikes Back, the equivalent to that one. Empire has a white planet with trench warfare. In that one, it's snow. In this next film, the modern one,
Ice.
it's
Oh no,
salt.
it's salt,
It's
right?
salt. It's
They're doing
totally
trench
cool.
warfare on that
Visually,
one.
it is fantastic.
It looked
it's
amazing.
great.
Yeah.
But then Ray essentially says, "Hey, I got to go find a hermit and train." Luke had to go find a hermit and train.
Yeah.
Luke had to go into a
Metal
cave
chestnut,
and see the evil person. Ray had to go into a cave and see the evil person.
had to-
They both left because they
Yeah,
had to save
geez,
their
I
friends.
never really
I had to
looked at
go
it
find
this
Frank
way.
Oz to train. Is what,
Dyer's
Yeah.
kind of
What it really
blowing my
boils down
mind
to.
over here.
but
Yeah, I didn't really see that.
I just
because it
ruined-
is kind
I
of the
just ruined it
hero.
for you.
It's the Joseph Campbell /
Yeah.
Sumerian thing.
I still love the films.
Oh,
by the
yeah.
way. I still
Oh, they're
think it's great. But I mean, when I'm watching it, at one point I was like, I know she's going to show up in a cave at some point. I know this is going to happen.
right
yeah.
in the Infinity Mirror sequence.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure,
Yeah.
that's great.
Major
We
deja
just need
vu.
18% more Peter Cushing. Thank
Yeah,
you.
there you
Everything
go.
does.
There you
Everything
go.
does.
There you go.
If not Peter Cushing, then Peter Dinklage.
Jeez. Yeah. Who's not in any Star Wars
No,
product
not
at
that
all,
I
right?
remember, but-
Well, let's remedy that. That'll be the
He should-
goal of the
I thought he
show
was
to
in
get
one of
Dinklage.
them.
I don't know. He made it in a Marvel kicking ass.
I think he was.
That guy's dramatic.
He may have been one of the Ewoks in one of the more recent movies.
What?
Oh, I don't know. We would have heard some about that.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people who had like cameos in
cameo.
the movie that nobody
I
knew they were
cameo
there.
was a cannibalistic
Like
Ewok.
Like Christian Slater when he was in Star Trek and he was there for like 3 seconds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't remember that, but I'm not denying that's the thing. But like Daniel Craig and Kevin Smith made appearances in the new trilogy.
That doesn't surprise me.
Both of them played stormtroopers, First Order stormtroopers. Yeah. In fact, Daniel Craig's trooper number was it TF-007 or something.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That is clever. That's nice. Yeah, do they, and this is completely off topic and stop me,
No?
but do they explain
Hulk
what
smash.
happened to all the, where did all the clones go?
Yeah.
They're like chilling on Jakku, I think.
Well,
it
they're
was
clones,
like
so
20
can
years,
they,
right?
Can
Did they have a
they
limited
mate?
lifespan, or?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know.
I mean, we saw old clones in what was it? One of the TV shows on Disney Plus. I think it was on Obi-Wan. There was like one of the clones like begging for
Oh,
change.
geez. Okay. Yeah, like
A bum, yeah.
yeah. Geez, that's rough.
They really brought it down.
Yeah, because they had accelerate. No, sorry. Commander Cody. Everybody's all fucking blasted over it. Sorry, buddy. You fought valiantly.
Bradley Baker.
Yeah, we appreciate your sacrifice.
They're all on a street corner trying to get their
But we get into
spice
the New
fix.
Order, and the New Order's got the same, but they're just people who were forced to be
Well-
soldiers. Right? They're conscripted soldiers. So.
And one of the other nerdy things I'm all about is voiceover stuff. So I'm I know like actors' names for things that you like. Why?
That
why,
is a niche.
Why would
That's
you want to know
great.
that? It's like I know these things because that's something I'm interested in. I've always wanted to do that.
That is when you find someone that's into like voice acting or voiceovers. That is a super niche. I interviewed Rob Paulson once, and when
Oh, dude,
told-
I met him this summer. Yeah, nice guy.
when I told somebody that, their jaw dropped and was like freaking out, and they were like, they would list off everything from Animaniacs to all this other stuff that he did, and I just thought it was cool what he
Jeez,
did
that's
and
great.
interviewed. I
Yeah.
felt
Yeah.
guilty. I was like, you should interview them.
He he did meet and greet in Auburn at the Unlock the Con place, the Super Mall or whatever it's called now, the Auburn Mall. And I told him, like, look, if it hadn't been for me, seeing you at Emerald City Comic Con, 10 years ago, I would have never gotten into podcasting, because I heard of podcasts, but I never really listened to any until I listened to yours. And I listened to his podcast religiously every week for a number of years. And I said, I hope you bring it back, because that was a great podcast, because it was basically every week he talked to one of his contemporaries, and they would talk about creating characters and how they come up with the voices and, all that other stuff, and going to conventions and meeting people and seeing how people really like what they do. And like I told him, is like, the year that I saw him at Emerald City Comic Con was the year that they were filming for the documentary I Know That Voice, and they had this really cool panel where it was him, John DiMaggio, Billy West, Kevin Conroy, rest in peace, Maurice LaMarche, and Tara Strong. All of those are these are powerhouse voice actors, The only way it would have been even bigger is if they had Peter Cullen and Frank Welker. That would have made it even, oh my God, I would have not been able to talk to anybody for a week. But so I listened to that panel and I was like, I really need to check out this guy's podcast. Whatever a podcast is, I knew of podcasts, but I didn't know what it was. And after listening to a few episodes, like, I can do that. I got friends I can chat with and about nerdy stuff, and just record a conversation and put it on the internet, and people find it. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, I did it with my friends, so it's not a big deal. So so I can pick out character voices, I mean, like, for example, a lot of people probably don't know this. The average person doesn't, but the character voice for Perry the Platypus on Phineas and Ferb is and of course, as soon as I say that, my brain goes, no, you don't need to know the name.
That's how it works.
Shit.
That's pretty obscure.
Their name is shit?
No. Funny. No, he's also the voice of all the clones on the Clone Wars.
Oh.
So he...
that's interesting.
Yeah, he does...
as far as one person's...
And like Frank Welker, and this is like, he is like a voiceover god. He does everything from like the monkey sounds from Aladdin and Curious George to even the monkey sounds from the Indiana Jones movies. That's all Frank. He's the voice of Megatron and Soundwave from Transformers.
Okay, that's good, because if he only had the monkey sounds on his credit, like,
oh no,
no offense, like that's a talent, but you're gonna be like, hey, no, I was in Indiana Jones.
Can you even imagine the deep fake threat to that guy?
He's got more credits than Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh wow.
I mean, he's
that's great.
He's the Cave of Wonder, Dr. Claw. He's been the voice of Fred Jones from Scooby-Doo since 1969.
Jeez.
That's one of my that's one of my nerd flexes, I guess you can call it.
All right. Well, Dyer, I hear that you are a super fan of Star Trek. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe we're called Trekkies or Trekkers now.
Right.
You know the difference between
the kids
two?
are catching on. Well, back when I'm a Next Generation, and back then they said you're a Trekker if you were Next Generation, and a Trekkie if you were
the
original series, and one of them got beat up more than the other.
The way I hear it is a Trekker is a Star Trek fan. A Trekkie is someone who insists on being called a Trekker.
I like that.
Right.
Star Trek, definitely into the Star Trek scene. And it's interesting you bring up Star Wars. It's like everybody always views those as two sides of like a coin. Like it's always one against the other.
Right.
And I understand the logic behind it, because they both came out in very, very similar times. They both had Star in their names, and there wasn't anything else around. like them. So yeah, but it's like apples and oranges. They're not even comparable.
You can't really compare the two.
One is like a sci-fi and the other is like an opera, and
Sure.
If you want to do like the whole Trek versus Wars thing, you have to watch the movie Fanboys, because there's like 2 or 3 sequences in that movie specifically that like address this. Like the movie's about these friends, one of which who's like got stage 4 cancer, and they're trying to get to the Skywalker Ranch to watch episode 1 before it's released, so he can watch it before he closes his eyes for the last time. That's a downer, right? So they go on this massive road trip, and on the way there, the guy who's driving decides to go to the birthplace of Kirk in Iowa.
Oh, Riverside, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so when they show up, there's a group of Star Trek guys who are like they're presenting a statue of Kirk versus Khan, and both of them have massive packages in their pants. And it's really funny. So these guys show up and they start talking shit about Star Trek, and they comment on the fact that both of them have a massive bulge. But there's all this back and forth is really funny. Yeah, if you've never seen the movie, I highly recommend watching it. It's very funny.
Check that out. Riverside, Iowa actually does have a Kirk attraction. It's just a little corner of the town that doesn't look like it should be a corner of the town, and it says future birthplace of James T. Kirk.
Nice.
I think there's a similar one for Janeway. I forget where, but yeah, they're definitely pulling in there. Closer to us in Alberta, Canada, there's a Vulcan human ambassador building, because there's a town in Alberta, Canada called the Vulcan, and they just figured, what the hell, we're going to lean right into it.
Yeah,
Right.
So they have
a great idea.
I think it was an old church or something. It was an old building that's a little round. It looks a little odd. Somebody converted that into essentially a Star Trek mecca with like an
Nice.
Enterprise out front, and you can go as if you were
That's
like,
great.
this is the ambassador of Vulcan. You're going to go visit. Right.
That's
Yeah.
a good gig.
Yeah.
That's pretty
That's a
awesome.
good gig.
Yeah, that's a road trip right there.
Yeah. And then of course there's the Jedi Temple over in Spokane.
Yes, that one. Okay, I did a story on that one.
Yeah.
That
That's why
one
I brought it up.
Thank you. That's because it's the one I can brag about because it won an award. The Jedi Church in Spokane is just a fascinating story. You should go listen to that podcast episode about it and just get the full story. But it was a church that was spurred out of essentially a guy trying to get around zoning codes, and there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
That was kind of
That's
it.
ingenuity for you.
It's great. He actually he's no longer in the church building, but he maintains the actual church paperwork and I forget what exactly the 50. It's not a 501, but it's a 50 something for it to be a church. He maintains all that. He's still a Jedi minister. He can marry people. He moved it into a former Thai restaurant now because he needed like more room. Believe it or not.
It's essentially like it's like going to Cafe Mox. They have video games and all kinds of cool stuff.
It is this was back when they were trying to get rid of pinball machines before it had this resurgence, and he was just finding people that they weren't making quarters, so he was finding people that were selling them, and if they didn't buy them, one guy was smashing him with a bulldozer.
Oh, jeez.
And so he bought all this stuff up and essentially was storing it in his house and his yard and his friends' yards, and he couldn't find places to put all of them. At one point he said, okay, I'm buying a duplex. I'm selling my house, I'm buying a duplex. One side is all the video games, not operational to play them, just stacked on top of each other.
Man.
Wow.
And eventually the church is a place where this can go. A church and also Ramon's memorabilia and a bunch of other stuff that he's interested in.
Jeez.
But it's a totally awesome place to go visit. But he gave me one of my favorite quotes ever in my history of interviews and being a reporter. And I asked him, I'm like, look, dude, you bought a whole property, a duplex, to just store all the crap that you're getting. I mean, did anybody bring up the H word? Like, was hoarder ever brought up? And he says, people did bring that up. He said, but here's the thing. I'm not hoarding pop culture. I am cherishing pop culture. I was like, okay, that's a very good distinction right there.
That is
I
a
am
very good
cherishing pop culture.
Nice.
Yes.
Todd, have you made a pilgrimage to get anointed?
The
by
last time I went out to Spokane, I really tried to make it out there, but in the time I was there, they were not open because they had like weird days off, and those were the days I was.
He does
in
keep
Spokane.
weird hours, actually.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And it was also like an hour away from where I was in Spokane, so it would have an hour by public transport. If I would have paid $20, I could have got an Uber there in like 10 minutes, but I was poor, so. But yeah, no. At some point, I want to go out there and check it out because I'm definitely a Star Wars guy, and
And that's it. He's just living his life,
if
right?
I was going to join a church, it would definitely be a Jedi temple for sure.
That's how you squat with dignity, right? You're just like, well, actually, I'm a Jedi priest, so I'm not going to pay the man Jack dick. Fuck off, Empire.
The thing I heard how Jedi became recognized as an actual church is because of military people when they have to put down like what their religion or their belief system is. A lot of them just put Jedi.
Yeah.
That was part of it. It was one of his inspirations of looking up.
I think I actually read that in your article.
Yeah, looking up exactly
In
how
your
this
magazine.
works, and he noticed it on dog tags when they have a religion part on your dog tags, but a lot of soldiers are just, well, I'm not Catholic or Jewish or anything, so they just put Jedi as a joke, and it just kind of took on with all those soldiers that do that. And it's apparent. I always ask somebody in the military when I meet him, it's like, is that true? He's like, oh yeah, my buddy does that.
Yeah,
and all
great.
that.
All right.
Yeah. Another inspiration, I don't think I put this in the story though, is when he did research, he found, I want to say it was in Jersey or somewhere on the East Coast. Somebody was it was a swingers club, and he was someone could say Hulk Smash if they want to, and they were getting kicked out for whatever reason, like, you guys can't have a swingers club, like, or whatever. And then they were like, but light bulb, we're a religion. And they were able to they were able to argue that and stay in place. And he was like, wait a minute, I mean, if they could do that for a freaking swingers club. Was that the swingers club or the Hulk Smash? If they were able to do
I like
that
to imagine
for
that as
that,
a
like,
swingers
they could
club.
definitely do it for something as ridiculous as a Jedi.
Oh, yeah, no,
Right?
I think that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And fair is fair, right? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like, oh, yeah.
Actually, when I was looking for like other alternative churches online, there's the Universal Life Church where you can become a minister. You can become a minister. You can listen to a little clip and you become, Reverend whoever your name is, and it's absolutely free. Unless you want to get one of those plaques to put on your wall, then it costs money. But there's also the Dudism, the Church of the Dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and became a minister of that as well.
You know where the Universal Life Church is?
I don't actually.
I'm pretty sure it's up on Capitol Hill.
Oh, there you
Yeah.
go.
That is awesome.
When don't quote me on this. I don't know if this is accurate, but I used to work at a station in Eastlake, and I would take walks around this kind of border between Capitol Hill and Eastlake. And there's a house there, really nice house, right on the hill, overlooking I-5. And on the front of this house is a sign that says Universal Life Church,
yeah.
and it has a little bit of like literature about like what it is and all that. That house. Don't quote me again. I'm not sure if this is accurate, so I'm going to be spreading some online misinformation or something. When you go by on I-5, there's a house that is lit up in like neon lights with like mannequins in the windows. It looks like a party 24/7. That's the house. And
I love it. No,
I
that's
never
a
knocked
tax
on the door to
evasion
find
scheme, and
out.
I love it.
I never knocked on the door to find out if it's true or not, but the sign is there in front of that house.
Jeez, I don't know. I think that's because what would the property tax for that house be?
Oh.
Right? I don't know.
According to-
20 a year.
I don't know if it's a 501c3. Who knows what those
nothing.
taxes are?
Yeah.
According to the Google machine, as Chuck calls it, it's actually based in Modesto, California.
I was going to say somewhere outside
There's some
Bakersfield,
church
but
that is neon lighting it up over in Eastlake
Nice.
/ Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
Okay,
Nice.
that's cool either way, man. There's also the other house that's off of I-5 that has like a giant painting of Betty Page and Divine too.
Oh yeah,
Ursa.
yeah. I used to live near there, and it had.
that's up there.
It
They
got-
just added a new one because every time it gets vandalized,
Yeah, I think it got-
they get it repaired and they add something new. Because first it was just Betty Page,
right.
and when Betty Page got vandalized,
Who in the fuck is vandalizing a free Betty Page pen?
Right.
Because
Well,
it's
dude,
she's
come
half
on.
naked and people are like, "That's not nice."
well, this is a perfect subject for four dudes to bring up feminism. The idea was people have different perspectives on feminism, and
Sure.
one perspective kind of went up against the other. The person who has that painting on their wall is a proponent of that's my type of feminism, that's the way I promote it. And the other people, when they left a little message saying like, don't objectify women and things, threw paint on it. So that's where it kind of all came from. When Divine went up, who knows what kind of hate you're
Yeah.
Is it Divine or is it Ursula from Little Mermaid?
It's Divine is the inspiration for Ursula. So yeah.
Well, is it Ursula?
No, it wasn't. It was Divine.
Okay.
Yeah. 'Cause it's like, she's got, it's either a bald head or she's got her hair slicked back and she's got the,
Divine has the that makeup that is
Yeah.
just
No,
it's
great.
like
No,
like a scary drag queen. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
Dyer, back
Yeah.
to Star Trek.
Yes.
Back to the podcast.
Totally. Come on.
so I bring you down rabbit holes. That's a problem.
No, that's
No,
all right.
no, it's fine.
That's where we go. A lifelong fan from a kid, reruns. What got you into?
Oh, I
it?
remember watching when bad kid in the '90s. I'm a '90s kid.
Yeah.
and I remember
That was
watching
the image that's on the side of the house. That right there.
Oh yeah, that's Divine.
Yeah, it's Divine.
You'll have to post that online. No, but yeah, back in the '90s, I remember watching it before I was able to even understand. Like it was
Heisenberg
an allegory for
compensators.
something. I didn't even know what an allegory was. And but then later on, I catch back up to it, and you can always rewatch it and find something new. And it eventually does. Maybe because I don't know, maybe I was indoctrinated as a child or something, but like it really kind of seeps into you. Like a after school special or something, like it kind of seeps its morals and its ethics
values,
and things that kind of
yeah.
its values. It kind of goes into you, and I feel like that was probably the most influential thing.
Was it the original series or the?
It was the Next Generation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I'm-
original series I love for its place and time, and actually
Yeah.
when it comes down to it, the folks that I like most on the original series aren't Kirk.
Yeah.
And those ones, there's a lot
Yeah.
of these other characters that like I'm really into, but Roddenberry wasn't into the character exploration. He was more of like a sci-fi writer in the vein of like Isaac Asimov and
Sure.
those types of magazines. That's what he was going for, and the characters that did develop, like the Bones, Kirk, and Spock, kind of naturally developed, but he really wasn't even aiming for that. When he went to Next Generation, and after Roddenberry passed away, the producers were like, "We're having difficulty pulling this off. We're going to lean into the character thing," and that's when all of a sudden. Data because like a larger backstory
Right.
and all that, and that's I think that's where the dynamic was. It really pulls me in because Picard over the original series, there's an intellect there and there's a depth there that I just never really found with the original series. Sorry for those fans, but when you had a problem with aliens out there, right? There's always an alien that comes in and that's a problem. We have to talk about it, right? We have
Right.
to meet those aliens and tell them, racism's bad.
Yeah.
So we find the alien and Picard is going to talk to them. He is
Yeah.
going to reason and logic with them, right?
Picard's not trying to fuck the green aliens.
Deanna is going to empathize
Right.
with them. Geordi is going to science with them, and Riker is going to sleep with them. There's something for everybody in that show. Yeah.
Riker is definitely the Kirk of the Next Generation.
Yeah, originally they wanted another Kirk.
Yeah.
Roddenberry wanted Kirk. He wanted a Kirk with a beard, and it was the
explains
other
that.
producers that eventually convinced him to get Jean-Luc Picard as Patrick Stewart.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because and he didn't even want like a French guy either. Patrick Stewart wasn't supposed to be Picard, but basically Roddenberry got outvoted at one point because they really wanted it to go this direction, and essentially the captain they wanted got pivoted over to Riker.
Sure.
Okay.
Gotcha. So
Hero was
Which
the
I-
word.
which I
Riker's the
think,
Kirk
yeah.
with the beard and the trombone.
Exactly.
Sure. No, it's great.
So were you able to get to talk to any of the Star Trek people at SummerCon this year?
No, I was stuck at the table. This is the thing that happens when you become involved in anything pop culture convention, Comic-Cons. Once you kind of get stuck into the vendor area, you're kind of not leaving. I snuck away for two things. I saw LeVar Burton's panel and I saw the Star Trek panel, and I had to pull someone in, kind of like watch the table, but I wasn't able to go check out their autographs or anything. I just got it would have been great because I just got it's called a Translite. This is what is on the back glass of a pinball machine. And I just got one of those for the Star Trek The Next Generation pinball machine from the 1990s. And I'm working on framing it right now, but essentially it's that plastic thing that has lights in the back and it kind of like pops those colors with lights. And I think that would be cool to have them.
Are you going to shadow box it with LEDs behind it or something?
Exactly the idea. Yeah. I went into a Michaels and I was like, what the hell do I do? And
I would use like those LED strips.
Yeah. That's the idea. Essentially do a backwards shadow box. You just put it up front and then you have space behind to do that. But then, I don't know, I started getting crazy and I started thinking of like, well, what if I had like a really ornate, like in the Louvre type art thing, frame around it, and so I don't know, I might go a little crazy.
I'd say go for it, but
I think it's great.
Yeah, no, we were trying to find people to talk to. We ended up talking to like the 5 people we knew that were hanging out in the gaming area.
Yeah,
so that was great. Though.
That was great.
I got a few interviews. One person from Playtest Northwest, and it's gonna be so offensive. I talked to Ming. And then I talked to, I believe her name was Alicia, who was a cosplayer that year, and that was basically like the 3 that I got.
Okay. What was her cosplay?
That day it was Captain Marvel.
Oh,
but I mean, the thing is, when it comes to cosplay, I'm kind of a little bit of a fish out of water, especially when it comes to being an interviewer, because I understand cosplay, I understand comic conventions, but I don't cosplay myself, so I'll be in a conversation and someone will say EVA foam, and I'll just be an idiot. Yeah. But the thing that I really like when I interview cosplayers is when they have a kind of a multi-dimensional thing going on with their character, and in this particular cosplayer is an author, and they are a TV personality, and particularly they are a fitness personality, and they're known pretty well in the fitness world. That is kind of like fascinating to me. In a similar vein, there's a local cosplaying couple called Rogues Gallery Cosplay.
I think I follow them, yeah.
They're based here in the Northwest, and I did a feature on them, and it's kind of a similar thing where, long story short, condensed, they had some health problems, and their doctor said you need to kind of solve that, you need to get healthier, and they used cosplay as a means to become fit, and then they really took off for them, where they really got into fitness. She ended up getting a doctorate in nursing, and then also started, I think she competed once in like those bodybuilding competitions, which they don't recommend anybody actually do. Yeah. But yeah, they it kind of became this thing of like, we are going to get fit, but we are going to get fit in pursuit of being an Iron Man suit, or something like that. Yeah, no,
that's great. Yeah, and that's you never know what somebody's motivational spark could be. That's great, and I'm glad people can find health in comic-based goodness.
Yeah,
right. It's like, no, that's fantastic.
Yeah, Mike, what about you, bud? Are you anime is big for you, right?
I'm a Naruto guy specifically because I kind of came up with my son reading Shonen Jump weekly, and so Naruto and One Piece. Plus, there's nothing on Earth. It's kind of the hero's tale, right? But there's nothing on Earth that you can't learn something in Naruto to deal with a real life situation. It's got it all. It's got it all. Oh yeah.
I want somebody to do this out there, is to take every Naruto episode, because my wife is having me go through them because that's her kind of nerd niche too. Sure. And I just want somebody to take the 3-minute portion out of every episode that's new and just stitch those parts together. Because it seems like every episode I watch is like, wait, this is half of the last episode.
Oh, man.
Yeah, why do they do that?
Yeah.
But that's also why I enjoy the written works.
So,
right?
yeah.
Then I'm pacing myself, right?
I think that's why they did that, though, is because the written works were coming out regularly. And the show was kind of keeping pace with them.
Yeah,
and
which
so
seems really difficult.
that's why there's all these kind of odd in-betweener episodes that don't have to do with the main stories because they're waiting for the manga to come out and tell them
and
where
they're still
it was going.
cashing in.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and also besides Naruto as a religious outlet for me, Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
I've been playing Magic pretty much since day one. So,
If someone was going to get into Magic, what is your recommendation for them to do so? Other than buying the beginner.
Sure, I would ask them how social of a person they are.
Okay.
Because going to like a Friday night Magic event or something like that, if you're a social person, can be a blast. Right, it's often very, a lot of laughter, a little bit of there's some blood, sweat, and tears in there too. But
I just don't want little 9-year-old kids making fun of me for.
Well, they'll smash on you ruthlessly, right? But that's
putting
okay.
the wrong card down.
And that's the thing is, your deck says something about you and how you play something, just like chess, right? How you play is an aspect of whom you are, right? So. I mean, you can crush on 9-year-old kids too. Smash them, drive them home in tears. It doesn't matter.
You joke, but real life experience. I used to be cool, and when I played in bands, and this was a long, long time ago. I was playing at a show in Chehalis. It's like an all ages venue.
That town. Oh, yeah.
And the guy who does like the sound board and everything kind of books all these shows. He was always over in the corner at this table. I didn't know what he was doing, but we were like doing setting up, and we're all ready, and we're waiting. And the show was actually supposed to start 20 minutes ago. And I go over and I'm like, hey, you want to do a sound check or whatever? And I look at him, and he's got a Magic card set. And this is before I knew what Magic was, but he's got it out, and there is like a 6th grader sitting in front of him. This is a grown man, 6th grader going in front of him. The 6th grader's got his arms just waiting for him to move. Yeah. And I was like, do you want to do a sound check? And he's like, I will be with you when I am ready.
Yeah.
We just waited all night for him to finish the...
Oh, no, that kid's crushing that guy.
Dyer's like, Hulk smash.
The emotions run wild.
Yeah, sure can. But that also says a lot about who the person is, right? Just
wow.
But I don't know. It's fun, and for me, because I like crosswords and other kind of brain games.
Oh, yeah.
For me, Magic the Gathering, besides the really cool artwork and the written connection, is that it really is. It's a constantly evolving set of strategies, right?
Yeah.
Because each deck is really can potentially be very unique. It's really nice. And I've been doing it long enough to where I just A, love to play, and B, just like to see how it folds out. Right?
Yeah.
Just how things kind of happen, and just kind of allowing for that randomness and not trying to
It's
control
new every
it.
time, right?
It really is, yeah. I mean, to whatever, extent.
Familiar,
Do you basically have the same deck that you play from every...
Like me personally?
Yeah.
Well, I go through them, right? So as I, get new ideas or see how things work or don't work, I'll pull cards and put new cards in. But I mean...
I don't know what the regulations
from 20, 8 years ago. Those are long gone.
Are we talking MTG right now?
Yeah.
I was going to say before I had to make a quick run, but the actress who plays Naruto is going to be in town soon.
Yeah.
She's going to be at the Unlock the Con in Auburn.
Oh, geez, where's that? Whose production is that? Unlock the Con.
Unlock the Con is a store in the Auburn Mall.
Oh.
They sell everything that you find normally at a convention.
They have a jack ton of Funko Pops in that store. I think
Yes.
I've been in there. Okay, I've been in that store.
Yes. And they have an art gallery across the hallway. Yeah, that's where they did the Ninja Turtle thing that I went to.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Super Mall since, I don't know, Mulholland Drive.
Since they stopped calling it the Super
I
Mall.
saw that movie, yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Oh, at the theater there?
At the theater there, yeah.
No one
That
knows.
movie was creepy.
I saw the first of the Star Wars prequels at that theater. was excited to go see Darth Maul.
I don't know if there's still a theater there or not.
There
There's
is. I don't
a
know.
Dave and Buster's there now, though.
I think the Dave and Buster's is going away, but the theater's still there. Yeah.
You ready? You ready for me to like lose the audience?
Yeah, do it.
lose the nerd cred. Like that first prequel film.
Yeah.
It's the only film I've ever fallen asleep to in the theater.
Oh, jeez.
I was watching. I was like, "What is going on?"
I
It was
don't-
sometime right
tired.
after when they put in like a Brooklyn coffee waitress robot, and there's like, "You want some Jabba juice?" It's like, what is this? Am I watching Star Wars? Hey,
Yeah.
you've picked all our brains. You way down there.
Yes, Charles.
What's your nerd?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a big Western guy,
Okay.
but also a big Star Wars guy, and it kind of Star
That's
Wars
really
always
good, isn't it?
kind of seemed like a Western to me, a space Western. But grew up loving Westerns, still do, and space Westerns are super cool. So
Is
anything
Firefly
from
kind of-
Firefly,
okay.
great.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
Well, okay. Well, important distinction
Yeah.
here. When you say Western, are we talking John Wayne or Clint Eastwood?
Clint Eastwood, big time.
Okay, yeah,
not
that's the
a
right
huge
answer.
John Wayne fan. He has had a couple of good ones, but
What about McHugh?
not as good as Dirty Harry, though. But
yeah.
yeah.
The Just side note: Scorpio and Dirty Harry is probably the most terrifying villain I think I've ever
Jeez.
come across.
Yeah.
Like
Wow,
people
wow,
don't
wow,
give him
good
credit.
job.
He's a sniveling little weaselly guy.
And you know they originally wanted what's the Medal of Honor winner that was in a
Yeah.
bunch of Audie Murphy. They originally wanted Audie Murphy to be in that
I think was
Scorpio
the right
character.
choice.
That's interesting.
But
Yeah.
he didn't really want to do it just because he wasn't sure about playing a bad guy. And I
Yeah.
don't remember the actor. I can
That
picture
guy
him,
is
but-
unreal. I've been to his
The
grave
actor,
site. It's
who I'm totally
you know.
forgetting, actually, to bring it back to Star Trek, he ended up playing Garrick in Star Trek Deep
Oh.
Space Nine,
Okay.
Oh, that
which is
guy.
also kind of in that psychological vein.
yeah.
Garrick was kind of you couldn't tell if he was a good guy or
He
a
was
bad
my
guy.
favorite, yeah.
He was-
But I love that you brought up the Clint Eastwood thing, too, because, like, I think high school me, it was just all like Clint Eastwood, those spaghetti westerns.
Yeah.
I was a video store
Fantastic.
clerk.
Oh, nice.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah, and
nice.
back when, hey kids, ask your parents what a video store
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. Video.
Yeah, the spaghetti westerns, Sergio Leone,
Oh, they're
in
amazing.
particular,
Amazing.
just blew my mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
Henry Fonda. I just lost it, but yeah, all of those. Just
That harmonica
amazing.
through my
I'm-
head
oh,
right
yeah,
now.
I'm
Charles
gonna-
Bronson.
Yeah, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is great.
Fantastic.
That's my
it's-
favorite,
It's
yeah.
some of the best cinema.
Yeah.
possible.
I'm going to probably upset a lot of people. I'm not a fan of westerns, but I will say Tombstone is probably one of my favorites. If I had to-
Tombstone is
I've
awesome.
never
yeah.
seen Tombstone.
Oh my goodness, we're
Oh
gonna
my
have a
God,
dude.
Tombstone
Yeah, I've never
night
seen- yeah, I
at the
know.
house, Mike.
I was here.
Dude, yeah, we have to watch that and just have big.
Oh, just
But isn't
brilliant.
that Michael Biehn as a bad guy?
Yes,
Because I can't
yes.
do that.
And I
'Cause
actually-
Michael Biehn is a hero.
I actually met Michael Biehn in Tombstone, Arizona, signing autographs.
That's
Oh, really?
And just awesome. Got a
yeah.
chance to talk to him for about
Dude.
10 or 15
No,
minutes.
no, I mean, he's John Connor's dad.
That's kind of how I. When you think of regional goth people, like he's what I think of when I think of like goths from Texas or Arizona, because he wore all black and he was kind of slimy looking, honestly.
Who's that?
In which?
In Tombstone.
Oh,
Yeah. When he
I think
played.
they all were. I
But
think
he
their
just-
makeup was just sweat.
He did
in
a
that film.
Yeah,
great
yeah.
job of playing this just angsty, just I made a deal with the fucking devil and
And he was.
I know I'm going to hell and I've accepted it character.
Yeah.
Just fantastic.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
I
stole
get
the
it.
show.
Yeah, maybe I'll watch.
He had a hard on for Doc Holliday the whole way through.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
trying to get
In
him.
the business, we
Trying
call
to
that
fight
a
him.
boner.
I'm your
They do.
huckleberry.
Yeah.
That's the
But
thing.
yeah, how about High
Yeah,
Plains
he actually said it
Drifter?
correctly
Oh my
too. By
God.
the way,
Oh, that's rough. That's a good
people
one.
say Huckleberry. It's not Huckleberry. It's Hucklebearer.
I think it's Huckleberry.
I think it's
No, it's
'Cause I think
Huckleberry.
he was-
Because Huckleberry is like a
Somebody who'll carry your casket. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I've heard that. I don't know. That I'm not
gonna
an
look this up,
entomologist or whatever that is.
Because
but,
I thought it was an
but I
old
do like
west
bees.
way of being like.
I'm going to carry your body out
basically
In a box?
being like, I'm making a homophobic slur here, like an Old West, like you're a huckleberry or something. That's the way I
don't know.
translated
Yeah,
it.
do we have an entomologist in the audience?
In the audience,
Any
anyone?
word
Anyone? Raise your hand.
People out there?
No.
No.
What
not
about the
today.
balcony?
Yeah, the call-in. We do have a call-in line, people.
Yeah, call it in. Right?
Yeah, except we're not live, so
Oh,
no one
yeah.
actually
Nobody
watching.
would know
Call it
until
in, leave
Friday.
us a voicemail.
Then I guess why do we have a call-in line?
Yeah, they could call and leave a voicemail. We do have the number.
Did you bring a
I will
High Plains
call-
Drifter, by the way? 'Cause that's
Yeah,
another
it's a
good
rough one. Oh, it's rough, but it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, and that was
Josie,
one of
what-
his first directing. Not
Oh, I
his
didn't know
first,
that.
but it
Oh.
was one of his first. I
Sure.
think he may have done Play Misty for Me, directed that first.
Did he really?
But the
It's a
interesting
weird
fact with High
movie.
Plains Drifter is he filmed that in sequence, so scene for scene.
jeez.
Yeah, so just and then paint
that's
the
so
town
cool.
red and
Yeah.
all. Oh, just
I was about to say
Crazy.
we're missing the best paint your wagon.
Oh, yeah. Paint Your Wagon's fantastic. Oh, yeah.
I've never actually seen that one.
Yeah, I
I kind
haven't
of
seen
'Cause
that
that's
one.
Lee Marvin,
musicals
right?
don't work.
Yeah,
with it.
I'm not a big.
Oh, no, it's great.
And that had Lee Marvin in it, right? With him.
Yeah, it's Lee and Clint, right?
Clint,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
it's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
That's kind of the magical
Yeah.
duo.
I don't think we've ever done that here at Renton Civic Theater, but we ought to.
We oughta, yeah. Bill, take notes.
If a spaghetti western night or something.
That would be cool.
That's a great idea.
I'd drive up for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would.
down.
I would
I don't know what the
cosplay that.
licensing-
I don't know. My favorite of them really is Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but it's like
Yeah.
3.5 hours. But it's everything that a movie should ever be.
exactly.
It's got it all.
You know, I'm going to bring this back around. Sorry,
all good.
bring this back around. Star Trek westerns, the things that like meet in space. A while ago, I had this idea, and someone asked me if I was ever going to do a cosplay. You know, because I'm not cosplay talented. Like, what would you do? And I would take Tombstone and Star Trek, and I would be Spock Holiday.
Nicely done.
Dude,
Nice.
yes.
It would
Yes,
be it would be
please do.
basically all of Doc Holliday's lines, but logically put. You
Oh,
know,
my God.
Yeah.
yeah, you could have a phaser instead of a. Yeah, I think that would
Yeah.
actually work out
Well,
pretty
and,
well.
and Val Kilmer played a great Doc Holliday in that he was a Latin lover, not a Latin lover, a lover of the language, Latin language. He could.
Well, I don't know.
Rephrase.
I'm not going to kink shame anybody.
He's playing
including
like
Doc Holliday.
he's playing classical music in the saloon and stuff like that. So I don't know. That would fit really well. I think with
Nice.
yeah, he was an
Spock's harp.
educated man.
yes,
Yeah. Spock played a cool space harp, didn't he?
Oh, he
Yeah, he
did.
did. Yeah.
And the cool multi-dimensional chess or
Logic
whatever.
would dictate that I am your Huckleberry.
Oh, I'm into it. This is a great idea. You heard it here first, folks.
yeah.
I'll never do it.
Yeah.
What is the licensing for playing a movie such as that? Anybody know?
I don't know.
As long as everybody
It
keeps their
depends
mouth
on who
shut.
owns it.
Yeah.
Well, there
When they
is
come in the
that.
door,
Yeah.
just be like, keep
I
your
don't know.
mouth
We've got a
shut.
great projector and a really nice screen.
The screen's pretty big. So
Yeah. Oh, no.
I'd be
It's
down.
nice. Yeah. Sound is good. This is a great place to have movies.
Yeah.
And it plays.
Either Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or we do the double feature, Fistful of Dollars, few
Yeah.
dollars more.
No, they're amazing.
Yeah,
They're
Right.
amazing.
You'd have to do one or the other because Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is a long.
Is a very long-
You have
It
to dig
is.
in for that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's cool, though. And it's just huge. Because, I mean, I just rewatched Ran. And I know I'm not saying that correctly, but Akira Kurosawa, right? So it's like, it's King Lear, but with like 40,000 people on set, literally. Bigger than most
Yeah.
cities on
Yeah.
planet Earth on set.
Yeah.
It's just madness.
Yeah.
It's just madness. And
what-
everybody's pretty organized.
What year did
right?
that come out?
86, maybe.
Yeah.
That came out in the
85,
80s?
Yeah. It's astounding. Yeah, I think it's on, in fact, I know it is. It's on Prime right now.
Okay,
It's amazing.
I have to ask, what were your thoughts on the J.J. Abrams Trek movies?
My thoughts?
Yes.
I like them for what they are. They're not my cup of tea, but I watch them. I have a good time. I'm having fun. The original Star Trek films, for everybody who was like, I don't like Star Trek, you put Star Wars in my Star Trek. The original Star Trek films were putting Star Wars in their Star Trek. Like they brought in more of the action. They didn't have so much a philosophical depth, and when they did, the films didn't do well. You know,
like
when
Star Trek 1, it's like,
well, Star Trek 1 was just like they just wanted to show how cool the models could be. That's entirely slow motion of a ship and then like one page of script. No, but like when Spock's brother shows up and says, I found God,
my
and it's
God,
all about
it's so
finding God.
bad.
Like,
Yeah.
that one didn't do well, but like the ones that...
It's every other one that does well, right?
Yeah.
The one that did all the even numbered ones.
Right, yeah.
The Star Trek 4 was great. Wrath of Khan, of course.
That's astounding.
Undiscovered
Yeah.
Country, I think, is actually my favorite one.
It's a good one. It really is.
I think-
I think
They're
it's because
chewing it up. They're really doing it because I think they do Star Trek, the original series, do best when they treat it as a stage production.
Yeah.
Right? When they have that type of thespian feel to it.
100% agree.
But
That King Lear kind of.
right,
Yeah.
it's because that's who those original actors were. That's what TV was still kind of doing. Right, it was still sound stages.
I think
They always have a nod to it. One of my favorite things they did in the original series, it was about a murder and solving the murder. But at the beginning of the show, and I forget what the play is they're watching. They're watching a Shakespearean play that has a murder in the play. But then the episode they do is that play.
That's great.
It was like a very meta moment.
Yeah.
Is it like Macbeth or something? when
I
they
am
killed
not the one. I took Shakespeare classes, and I think that's the stuff that went out of my
It
ear
was
when I took the
Francis
math
Bacon
class.
anyway.
I don't remember which one it is, but I think the one I like of the original cast is the one with the whales and the
Oh yeah, it's Star
That's
Trek
number 4. Yeah.
The-
Return to
the-
the Earth.
The nuclear
where-
vessels.
Yeah, I was just gonna say where Chekhov was looking, the Russian officer was looking for the nuclear vessels.
Oh, no, it's great.
Or the
Scotty is like computer.
They had all the best one-liners in that
Yeah,
movie,
they're
and it's
having
also
fun.
like it also has the punker who is listening to his loud music, and that guy makes an appearance in Picard.
Oh, that's cool.
They go back in time. They go to San
Same
Francisco.
character?
Same actor.
Oh, that's great.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
But I mean,
and
to
it's the
answer your-
same song.
Plus
Even
that whole, that whole bit. They're on a bus in the daytime. It's like
Yeah.
you don't see a whole lot of film that's not like, manufactured light and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Especially with older actors and stuff like that. The fact they're all sitting on a fucking bus during the day.
You know what? Give Speed the credit it deserves, okay? That's what I'm saying. But I mean, to answer your point, I think the original, the J.J. Abrams films are fine. They don't rise up to my favorite Star Trek, but I think we have in our modern age a little bit of an imbalance because we've been so spoiled with good media. Even streaming TV is competing with like Hollywood level cinematic stuff. And now when we have like people say we have like a bad Marvel movie, that movie sucked. It's actually a decent film. It's not going to be great. It's not Endgame or the first Iron Man, but it's a decent, fine film. If it would have came out absent all that, people would say, "Oh, that was a fun ride." But because it doesn't rise to that peak that they have, now everything's just crap. So J.J. Abrams, those films, they rose up pretty high. They brought something new, like running into Star Trek.
Yes.
But but they don't rise up to the Next Generation or Picard.
yeah, I actually no, I've had a lot of lively discussions about JJ Trek, as I like to call it, because it's completely different from the original series and the original movies. In fact, the first one was essentially A New Hope with Picard instead of Luke. Or not Picard, Kirk instead of Luke.
Yeah.
And I had a friend of mine who was like a diehard Trekkie who just flat out hated it because they destroyed Vulcan in the Prime Universe or some shit like that. I'm like, dude, really? Are you really going to be that butthurt over
Romulus, the Vulcan's cousins? Yeah.
Oh, that was Romulus. No, they destroyed.
Well, in the,
that's
you're
where-
right, because
that's
they
where-
go back into the original. The
because
timeline
they tried to save Spock's mom and she died.
So here's the deal. Here's the deal. We need to put this to rest. The Star Wars people, Star Trek people, especially you Star Trek people that learned all those lessons about not othering people, not having fights. Here's the deal. Star Trek comes out. It has a cult following. It's hugely influential. It's so influential that a young George Lucas watches it and says, "I love that. I also love opera and so I want to make that, but I want to do it my way." And if not for that Star Trek, George Lucas would not have gone the where he did. And he brought something completely new. He totally took that inspiration and he did something new and influential, and it stands on its own. Later on, some rando named J.J. Abrams watches Star Trek and thinks that's freaking awesome, but the only contract he gets in Hollywood is for a Star Trek film. So he watches Star Wars and he brings Star Wars back into Star Trek. These things have been like revolving around each other and influencing sideways the whole time. We just need to look. It's all good. You might think it's good or better or worse compared to your personality, but yeah, we don't need to let's just all be friends, Let's buy the world a Coke.
I actually.
What about Pepsi then? Yeah.
It all goes back to Lost in Space anyway, right?
Everybody is like, yeah. I don't know. There was the other thing.
Yeah, I'd say Twilight Zone. If Twilight Zone hadn't broke the mold for what is kind of the morality tale, right, allowed on television, then Star Trek never would have made it onto it. And don't they also trace it back to Lucille Ball?
Right.
One thing that I do is listen. I'll play Twilight Zone episodes on my phone while I'm driving, so it's like a radio play. Yeah. On my way here, I was listening to a Twilight Zone episode because it might factor into a column I'm going to do. But it was an episode called He's Alive. And it had Dennis Hopper in it, a very young Dennis Hopper in 1963. And this was written by Roger Sterling for a 1963 episode, but if you watch it, everything, the rhetoric, even the language is just a carbon copy for what is kind of what we're seeing in extremism news today that basically gives everybody a headache.
Oh, is that where he kind of becomes Hitler?
Essentially the ghost of Hitler's. Hitler's the devil, right? And he's showing up in the shadows and giving him the words, in a very Faustian way. And but at the end, Dennis Hopper realizes who he's been dealing with, and it's like, oh boy, you're surprised. And it's just such a freaking well written. And it was a show. Yeah. This was on TV in 1963. Right. Something
which is
that
early,
deep.
People. That's early. Yeah. It is that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
That kind of show, those kinds of shows need to make a comeback. I don't know if there's anything on TV right now that's anything like those shows.
And I think because sci-fi is that type of Black Mirror, right? It's a parable, so it can speak truth to power, right?
Right.
And kind of turn. Contemporary times and mores, etc. on their head, right? That's kind of
Jordan Peele bring back the Twilight Zone?
Yeah,
he did. I thought he did it pretty well.
I thought he did it pretty well. Yeah.
I think Jordan Peele is so in demand.
He's kind of got the Midas touch. I like his product. I really do.
Nope.
Oh, it's amazing.
I watched that and I was like, I finally got to feel what it was like watching Tremors for the first time again. Right on. That was. Yeah. Yeah, such an original. I mean, it really gave me Tremors vibes. It's not Tremors, but I was it's such a. It was such
now
an
that you mention it. I see that. I definitely see the parallels there.
No, I like it a lot.
I want to ask him. I wonder if I want to ask him was Tremors at all in your mind when you were writing that that movie? But yeah, you're right. We should bring those shows back.
Yeah.
Sure. And I don't know. And just as consumers of media, we should consume media that does challenge our, sensibilities a little bit. It's okay, right? And I think sci-fi is not the only way that happens, but it typically doesn't just T-ball it. It's like you got to work at it a little bit.
I agree with it 100%. I do want to we need to leave ourselves some room. For the other side of that, to just have our brains check out. It is okay to watch Hot Tub Time Machine. It's okay to just go completely stupid every now and then.
Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah. No, I watched Transformers: Age of Extinction yesterday.
Oh man,
I was oh my god. Oh yeah.
That's another level.
Close down. Yeah, but you know what I mean. No, God bless. I love popcorn movies. Oh, hallelujah. Yeah. But it's also, I don't know. I only have so much time on Earth, so I'd like to. At least get pushed a little bit.
Great, yeah.
What show actually had a lot of really great, thought-provoking episodes was The Orville.
The Orville, I mean, he's blatant about it. He's totally open about it.
He wanted
to make Star Trek The Next Generation.
Because I forgot, how many 8 seasons, 9 seasons? The guy's rocking it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I actually, here's the funny thing about it. I think he's only gotten 4 or something out of it.
For The Orville? Yeah, it had 3 seasons.
Yeah, it's 4 years go by and he's like, I got another season for you. Because I think it was it canceled?
It was, it got moved to Hulu.
Okay.
And season 3 was on hold for 6 years, largely because of
doing just fine.
He's the king of the comeback.
But he was trying to do season 3 when the pandemic hit, so that also pushed it back even farther. So
the streaming has changed the game so much that shows that are canceled will get a little bit like a second chance at life now and then.
It's amazing.
Like Lucifer was
like
one of those.
Lucifer, when they throw that on streaming and they see such a demand for it, and Netflix, they got data, they got stats, they know how long you're watching into a show, they know which parts and which episodes you respond to more, so they got it all down, and they know which shows that probably will do good. So they bring back Lucifer, they bring back Orville, we move it on here because it's streaming so well. In an odd way, there was a show that I grew up absolutely loving, and nobody knows what the hell I'm going to be talking about, but in the UK, there was a show called Red Dwarf.
Love that show. I'm a dwarf
I'm
for
surprised
myself.
as hell. I have a T-shirt that says "Give Quiche a Chance." I walk around with it. Nobody knows what the hell I'm doing.
I actually got to talk to Daniel Craig and Robert Llewellyn when they were here back in
That
like
is
the
awesome.
they're great.
early 90s, 95, I think.
Oh, wow.
They had a Channel 9, they have their begathons or whatever you
Yeah,
want to call
begging
them.
for money.
And they had those two come out and they did a Q&A thing, and I actually remember seeing this happen. There was a huge line for the Q&A. People were wanting to ask those guys questions, and a kid who was probably maybe 10 years old comes up and says, "What's Smeg?" And both of them climbed under the stage, and then after a couple minutes they came back and said, "Ask your mom."
That's
It's a maker of appliances. That's what it is. The thing about that, though, is in the UK, in recent years, they started a channel because
Dave?
you can do it called Dave, and they just played, like, streamed the reruns of that, and a whole new generation. The old generation was like, I remember that, and started consuming it, and the new generation that never really experienced it before was like, when the hell was this on?
Yeah, no,
like,
it's great.
where did that go?
Well, now the kids
And
have
now they're
strong
bringing in-
cannabis, so they love it.
So Dyer,
Well, they're bringing it back now. They're doing more seasons.
Yeah, they-
I think those
geez.
guys,
Yeah.
those guys are going to do it when they're in Rascals. Like, they're
Yeah,
gonna
I love it.
Yeah,
they're up to season 12, I think.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and Ace Rimmer is one of the greatest characters of all time.
smoke me a kipper.
Oh, my God.
I watched
Stoke
this
me a
recently.
clipper, I'll be back for breakfast.
I have kippers in my pantry right now. I had no idea what the hell they were or what he was talking about. I was like, smoke me a kipper. Oh, it's fish? I'm going to...
Yeah.
He's the reason I bought
That's
kippers.
so great. No, he's riding a couple like alligators. Oh my
Yeah,
God!
he rides an alligator and shoots Nazis out of the sky.
There's an interview with
God,
Sir
it's
Patrick
fast.
Stewart where he was back home for, during in between seasons of Star Trek, and he goes back home. This is like 1988, 1990 thereabouts, and he turns on Channel 4 in the UK and sees Red Dwarf and sees Crichton and everything and goes, "This is a blatant ripoff of Star Trek." And then he started watching and goes, oh no, this is better.
Something made him laugh because he's watching it. It says they're in space. They have an android. And he was like, wait a minute, they're kind of ripping off but then he watched a little further and something made him laugh.
And
it was, and maybe it was Rimmer with the puppet in the...
Mr. Flibbles,
Mr. That was... Dwayne Dibley is another one.
Dwayne Dibley.
They can use
Oh my God.
place of worship. The Druids can use my place.
So
my
bad. He's got
place
a
of worship.
thermos.
Dude, okay, so this might be a little off topic, but this I promise will come back to Red Dwarf. Has anybody ever watched any sufficient amount of the South Park? The episode where the two Star Trek nerds are arguing about how many episodes?
I haven't seen that one.
Okay, well, that happened with me and my friend Chaos, who we're both huge Dwarf fans, and we were watching one year when they were doing the Channel 9 Begathons, and they split the Spare Squid episode in two parts so they could beg for more money. And she swears up and down as it was a two-part episode. It wasn't cut in half or blah blah blah. It was a two-part episode. I was like, it was never a two-part episode. We argued for a month about this.
Oh.
Finally, one of us found a copy of that season of Red Dwarf, and we watched it on tape, like without the commercials and without everything else. And I go, look, right there, proof that it's not a two-part episode. It's not part one and part two episodes. It was one episode. They stopped halfway through for a commercial, did like an hour's worth of send us your money because we want to show you more stuff like this, and then played the second half of the episode, and she still argued with me over it.
This is how you know a true nerd. I once saw John Delancey speak,
Nice.
who played Q on Star Trek.
I saw him
I'm
walk
still
past
mad
me
at
at
Q.
SummerCon this year.
He was in Portland at Rose City Comic Con one year, and people were asking him this question, that question. And he's got a subset of like My Little Pony fans because apparently he
The
did a
bronies,
voice-
yeah.
he did a voice on that cartoon. And so folks are asking him some stuff, like little kids would come up and they ask him about My Little Pony, and other folks are coming up, and they were like, well, you probably weren't a main cast member, but had more episodes than anybody else who wasn't a main cast member, and that got like debated between the stage and him and the fans, like, no, somebody else was on here first. And he was like, well, I was only in 30-something episode, blah, blah. And then some comes up and like with their phone, like, I have IMDb up, and actually, you were in this many, so you're one episode
Actually.
off. And he's like, listen, you little shit.
Yeah.
He actually says that. He's like, you guys are counting the movie of the week. I only got hired for one episode, but they made that a two-parter. It was the end of one season and the beginning of another season, but I only got paid once, you know? And yeah, I mean,
Poor
it's just,
Q.
yeah, and here's the guy who's actually acting in it, who you're honoring, and you're like, actually, Mr.
You're arguing with
Delancey,
him. Yeah.
you're wrong.
Oh my God, that's wonderful.
But yeah, no, Red Dwarf, I discovered that in like late 80s when season 3 came out. Me and my cousin Marianne were at our grandmother's house in North Seattle, and we were flipping channels, and we stopped because we saw something that looked like it was science fiction, very low budget. Not as low budget as the original series of Doctor Who, mind you, but it was
but
still low budget.
In
And,
that same.
but it's in that same vein. It was very low budget, you know. Some of the best one-liners are from that show. Like in the first episode, he's like, Dave Lister's walking. Dave Lister? No, that's not right.
Yeah, no, it's Dave Lister.
It is, okay.
With his
Okay.
chicken vindaloo.
Remember, yeah, I'm thinking of my brain was confused there for a second. Anyways, he was walking through the ship, like dipping his finger through what looked like what was that candy that was basically just flavored sugar,
Like a Dippin' Dots or whatever.
or like the come in straws.
Oh, the powder
that's called
thing. It's like a
cocaine,
powder.
Todd.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but he's
With little spoons.
Yeah, no, it looked like little piles of it, like, you know, pink sugar piles or whatever. And he's dipping his finger through and licking it, and going, and so and so's, they're all dead, Dave. Everyone's dead, Dave.
Everybody's dead, Dave. They're all dead, Dave.
They're all dead, Dave. And then he goes, well, what are all these piles of stuff that I've been eating? He's like, that's the crew, Dave.
That's the crew,
That's
Dave.
Ensign Smith.
Kachansky. Yes,
And
Dave. She's
Kat
dead.
was a relatively respected stage actor, right? And dancer.
He was a
I think.
dancer.
He was a dancer, yeah.
And
Danny
they
John
actually tried to spin him off for a little bit of publicity. They made a song called Tongue Tied.
Tongue Tied
And
was great.
they ended up making the music video a dream Kat was having on the show. So the beginning of one of the shows is Kat doing Tongue Tied, and the cast is singing behind him.
Yeah.
That actually became a top hit in the UK.
I'm not
Tongue-Tied,
surprised.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was all him dancing.
Yeah.
Actually, folks, if you've never watched Red Dwarf, I think it's free on Amazon right now.
I found it on a thing called Plex. If it is free on Amazon,
Oh,
go
yeah,
for it.
Plex. Plex has it right
Plex
now. That's what
has
it is.
a whole bunch of them.
Oh, yeah, I love Plex. I have a Plex server at home.
Right on.
Or
Lots of
just your
movies on
local PBS station.
there. Yeah. No, you can watch. I think I haven't looked at how many seasons Plex has, but there's seasons 1 through 8 were like the original series, and then like 15, 20 years later, 9 came out, which was a three episode season, just to see if there was any interest. And it was essentially like a spoof on Blade Runner. And then seasons 9 or 10, 11, and 12 came out a few years after that, even. So
Yeah, the Blade Runner universe is so unattractive; it could never become a series.
Yeah.
You know, it's so sad. Everybody's
depressing.
spirits just
Yeah.
crushed.
that season, those 3 episodes were kind of a meta thing, where it was like they were like looking back on it, on itself, like it was like Red Dwarf was a TV show, and they were like, we're a TV show? What?
Yeah, that was
Where
kind
they
of some
break
fan
it.
service for them to, I think, fill some time. It was like a little movie where they go out of the TV and realize that everybody else is watching them as a show.
Yeah.
You bring up Blade Runner. I just want to give a shout out to one of my favorite new bars here locally. It's in Seattle. It's called Time Warp.
Oh.
And if you
What?
like Blade Runner, it's on Capitol Hill.
Okay.
It is a Blade Runner themed bar with a bunch of pinball machines and arcade machines. Most of it is themed on like time travel and sci-fi anything. So they have like the Stargate pinball machine, or they have like Terminator stuff. They have Johnny Mnemonic pinball machine and all that.
Man.
Time Cop, those little shooter games.
Yeah.
And
Time Cop's on Plex as well.
Primarily it's primarily a Blade Runner themed bar, to the point that they have a ramen wall. That's their primary thing that you can just go, I want that bowl of ramen. Yeah, and that bowl of ramen, and you can get that. All the lighting is the same.
Jeez, I
it is
think we have a
Cool.
field trip.
Whereabouts on the hill?
It's on. Oh gosh, I'm the wrong person to ask. It's around the corner from the one coffee shop I go to. You know that one, right?
That one, yeah.
The one coffee shop.
It is.
How far away from Dick's is it?
Far. It is. It's more on the street, like where Pike and Pine go down. So it's. I think it's like where Pine is,
Windows
and you
and all
kind of
that
go
kind of
up
stuff?
a block on the
Okay.
same stretch as the Eagle or the Elliott Bay Book Company.
Oh, okay.
That place
All right.
there. You
Okay.
can go down a little ways. Yeah.
All right. No.
I got myself a ticket to go see Andrew Rivers do comedy at a comedy
down.
club up on Capitol Hill in like the first week of next month.
I know. I wanted to ask you guys something actually, because looking at some of the backgrounds, is it everybody or just one person has a comedy background on this panel?
I mean,
None of
No.
us have a
my
comedy
wife,
background.
my wife
Edit this
Yeah.
out.
disputed
Edit
any
this out.
Kind of comedy drama, you know, like
Okay,
a
all
happy,
right.
sad.
I mean,
thing.
I was on I did a podcast with my cousin Marianne and her well, I guess we're all mutual friends, but her and her friend Jamal are both professional comedians.
My mom
and,
used to ask me if I had taken my medication when I tried to be funny. She said, "Go get on some downers, bro."
No, we all know a bunch of comedians. I mean, like I do. Those guys I think know a few as well.
Well, speaking of Seattle, Dyer, you recently wrote a blog or an article on Seattle being a nerd town and where it sort of falls in the whole spectrum of the United States.
We're not number one,
We're
are
not
we?
number one, which
We should be.
we
Damn
should
it!
be number one.
Yeah,
But we were
it
like
is.
down to like 14 or something.
We were
right?
14th.
That's
The-
crazy talk.
So this was
who's ahead
this
of
was
us?
definitely in blog territory.
but it was
like,
like Horse and Hound magazine that
no,
came up with
it
it,
was
right?
lawncare.org or something like that. Because when I think of pop culture, I think of lawn care.
Yeah.
The they do, basically this. I get all these as in my professional life as a journalist. You get all these kind of PR things that are spewed at you, and what they really are is somebody does Wallet Hub is just renowned for them. Is you get some sort of really interesting, thought-provoking, quote-unquote study. Where they actually get smart people, professors and PhDs, to come up with some way to put a topic into metrics, right?
Figure out how to tabulate it.
The worst the worst place to date for Star Trek fans or something like that. And they'll find a way like, well, if we put metrics, then we'll get some census data and we can calculate it this way. And they do a way to play with numbers. It reminds me of something a statistics teacher once told me, which is that if you torture the numbers enough, they'll tell you whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that. So in this case, they basically came up with some metrics for cities, the largest cities in the U.S., and was like, how many comic shops do you have? How many events do you have? How many like LARPing and Renaissance fairs? And they basically they weighted them and they calculated them. But when I was looking at it, it doesn't exactly flow this way. But if you look at it, you're like, well, okay, well, the top cities, I forget, it was like New York.
I have them right here.
Yeah. Those cities line up with by population and land size with the United States. So basically you're saying if your city is huge and has a larger geek net, you pull in more geeks.
Yeah.
And it doesn't line up exactly.
Dude,
but it
like
kind of goes
Orlando
down.
and Vegas are ahead of us.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised about Portland. That makes sense.
Vegas has
Boston,
a lot
though?
of shows. Yeah. Come
So
on.
here's the thing. My
Talk to Ray
argument
about that.
is that Seattle's basically a bottleneck. It's got water here, and I mean it's the reason why the traffic sucks and we can't live in it. And so the region here that we have is really kind of the city. That's why they call it the Seattle area. Usually on census forms they put us in like Seattle, Tacoma, Bellevue,
Right.
like that triangle.
Yeah.
Our region, I have argued, is one of the nerdiest corners in the entire nation. We have no month that really goes by without some sort of pop culture event happening, whether it's a Comic-Con, the SummerCon was a pop culture event. We just talked about a store in a mall that if you can't get to a convention, they have the convention vendors selling stuff out of the mall.
Which is a great idea.
We have the oldest comic book shop in the nation right down there at Pike Place Market.
Sure.
Oh, Golden Age Collectibles, man. Yeah, I love that place.
Yeah, but only because it's rent control. Right, all the time travelers. There's a gaggle of comic book shops downtown. All gone.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing is
rent went crazy here.
The region here is really kind of collectively a massive just nerd hub.
Yes.
I mean, we're in the Renton Civic Theater. I went to a Nerd Awards here.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I can't say that a lot of that happens elsewhere. I mean, I'm gonna pivot a little bit, but I'll liken it to like the pinball scene, which I think is kind of a nerdy scene. If you
it definitely
meet
is.
these people,
Yeah.
we have more pinballs per machines per capita, or just anywhere in this corner of the nation. Than the only other places that can compete with us are like Las Vegas, and it's because they have a museum there, and they're all in one spot.
Have you guys ever been to
LA.
Dorky's down in Tacoma?
I've been down to Dorky's. I like Triple Knock. Triple Knock's my spot.
I've not been to that one.
They, but yeah, like if you go down to LA, for example, I went down there. I use something called a pinball map app. It'll tell me anywhere I'm at, where the closest pinball machine is.
Yeah, you're really into pinball.
Dude.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I go down to LA, and there's like, you got two, like, here's one of the largest cities, pop culture mecca, and you can't find a decent pinball machine in that city. I come up
get some
here,
liposuction.
I can go anywhere.
You can get Botox.
I could go anywhere up and down I-5. Anywhere I can go to Monroe and find more machines of pinball than in all of LA. And so that's the way it is nerdy here.
Was that taken that wasn't taken into account in their metrics, right?
No,
I mean, did they take into account like things like board games and stuff like that?
right.
Because that's, I mean,
we've got board game conventions.
we've got tons of conventions.
Board game bars.
We've got,
Cafe Mox is a great board game
Wizards
bar.
of the Coast right here.
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast. We got the hub for Dungeons and Dragons. I think was part of their metrics too.
Yeah, okay.
We have so much of a board game, hobby game, card game enthusiast scene here.
Yeah.
We have a whole organization called Playtest Northwest where you can go and test your games, and they are so steadily flowing of independent, grassroots games that they're regularly doing this every month, getting together to test each other's games.
Yeah.
I don't think you can say that anywhere else.
Yeah, and there's tons of small mom and pop game shops.
Like
I think it's
Dunce
primarily-
Cap games, sir?
What's that?
Like Dunce Cap
No,
games?
I mean like retail stores.
Places that sell games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever use the playtest, Charles?
No, but we didn't. We went right to market, baby. We didn't test it.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to one here, right?
We didn't need to test. What are you talking about?
Charles and his partner are Dunce Cap Games, and they have a couple of different board games.
I have met you before this.
Soup to nuts.
Oh, okay.
I've talked to you about and I think I'm on your email list.
Okay.
Oh,
cool. I don't think
you
we've sent
probably
out any
interviewed them
emails.
at
really,
Renton City Comic Con when they were up at the technical college. That's how I met Charles.
Okay.
There, we've been a few. Yeah.
So I'm preaching to the choir here in this.
No, I find it fascinating that, but what you're saying, your belief is it's done by population, right? Because they have more.
I just think they're a little bit off on their metrics there. The thing is to really do a deep dive into this, to go into the culture of a community, you can't really pull census data for that.
Yeah.
And I think folks who know. I think if you know that if you want to go to a nerdy pop culture hub, this is one of the regions that you go to.
Oh, yeah.
We also have
Collectible.
the Museum of Pop Culture here in Seattle.
Yeah.
Sure.
Which is what used to be called the EMP, and at one point it was the EMP and the Sci-Fi Museum, and that's when I worked there. I worked there for a summer, and that was when they had. I was actually a volunteer first. When I volunteered there, they had the Jim Henson exhibit, which was all like Muppets and stuff. It was such a cool exhibit. They had like Muppets behind glass, and they had like drawings, hand-drawn sketches of characters that we all grew up watching on TV, and they had a mock-up of a how they did the puppetry for the Muppets in like the basement of the museum. There was like a stage with monitors on the floor and cameras looking at the stage. And he basically would hold the puppet like above your head and, do like this, and you're looking at the floor where the monitor is. And such a cool exhibit. And then after that was when they had the Battlestar Galactica exhibit, and the curator of the museum knew I was a sci-fi nerd and loved like Star Wars and Star Trek, and he goes, "Do you like Battlestar Galactica?" I was like, "I love the new show, and I was a fan of the original show when I was a kid, so yeah, I like Battlestar Galactica." He's like, "Is there anything you want to see in the exhibit?" I was like, "Well, if you guys get any Cylons, make sure the eye works. We don't want to see a stationary eye on a Cylon. That's just that make it work." So they actually spent money and time in refurbishing the scanner eye on both they had a gold commander Cylon from the original series, and they had one of the Cylon ships from the new series, which was so big that they had to actually pull the side of the building apart to bring it in.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, there was a video of them that you can see in the lobby that shows them pulling the aluminum paneling off the side of the building to put the ship inside. Nice. Up on the third floor.
Like a Viper or something?
They had two different Vipers. They had an old school Viper, and they had one of the new ones from the new series in 2004. And then the Cylon ship they had was one of the newer ones. So it's the one that looks like the Batwing, essentially, with the Cylon head for the cockpit.
Man, talk about a show that started so well.
The original or the new one?
The new one.
The new one.
I haven't watched that either. I sure like Edward James Olmos.
It's on Peacock, Mike, if you want to watch it.
Yeah, I don't have
both series, actually. Both the original and the spin-off series.
Green, man.
There was an amazing episode of Portlandia where they incorporated in the cast of Battlestar Galactica in an effort because it ends, and they wanted another episode. You just got to watch it.
I've watched a episode of Portlandia, and it was a little weird for me. I did.
Yeah, it's obtuse. But
well, that's
great.
Portland.
Yeah,
it's good. I'm a Kids in the Hall fan, so obtuse is like.
Man,
I love Kids in the Hall, but I just for whatever reason I didn't get. I didn't understand
yeah, I think the bizarre punk rockness of it is the like attraction.
Yeah, Brain Candy was a slayer.
Oh my gosh!
Was it?
We kicked penicillin's ass.
Land in Montana.
Was it Kids in the Hall? I remember a bit being on Comedy Central. I thought it was Kids in the Hall, but I don't know. There was a bit where this guy was like constantly like trimming his mustache and his beard all the time, like constantly. And then one day his trimmer broke, and he wasn't able to trim himself constantly. So his hair started growing even longer, and he eventually started like just combing it so it looked like a beard, and at one point it was growing so fast.
Sounds like something they would do, but I don't remember.
This might have been a fever dream, Todd.
No, it was either Kids in the Hall or it was the Upright Citizens Brigade. I can't remember which.
That definitely sounds like in the vein. Yeah. Upright
because it was the reason why I'm bringing it up, because at one point he's in like a departmental meeting. He's sitting at the head of the table, and all these people in suits are around him, and he's talking, and all of a sudden he sneezes, and like the hair goes out and like hits everybody in the face. I think I'm the only one that remembers that bit. I just remember it being so funny, and I don't remember where I saw it from. I'm pretty sure it was one of those two shows.
I often break out in These Are the Daves I know regularly.
David Helfner, I hardly know him.
And then the beat just keeps going.
Speaking of Canadian humor, have any of you guys seen Letterkenny?
No, not in.
It's an exclusive on Hulu, and it was one of those. I found a clip online, and I was like, okay, I need to see more of this. This show's really funny, and someone said, well, how would you get someone else to watch it, not ever knowing anything about it? It's kind of like if you took Strange Brew and you kind of married it with Mallrats.
That's interesting. For Canadian,
anything Kevin Smith, really.
For Canadian humor, we'll give a shout out to the Canadians here.
Yeah.
What tops your list of Canadian pop culture humor? I mean, we've mentioned Strange Brew and all these other things.
SCTV's right up there.
SCTV was cool. We had when I was a kid, for sure.
And Kids in the Hall definitely is on the top 5.
Yeah.
That might be my top.
Yeah. Yeah, Kids in the Hall is funny.
I mean,
And
any early John Candy is got to be
But
something
I
you
guess
have
Mike
to watch.
Myers is he a Canadian?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
From
come
Toronto.
on. Yeah, that's
I mean, some of the
he's
funniest.
Mike Myers. He's made me laugh.
I'd say one recommendation I have for folks then is it's more in the sitcom vein, but it's Kim's Convenience.
I was going to say Kim's Convenience.
I've been
'cause
rewatching that recently.
Did you go over and talk to him? He was at SummerCon.
So, yes, Appa, the actor who
the
plays
dad, yeah.
the dad who plays that, I went up to him because he came over to Yoko's play area in the game area. He came over to where I was. That's why I was able to see him at Washington State SummerCon, and he was on Yoko's live stream. And when he was done, they were all kind of like sitting around chatting. I just walked up and I tapped him on the shoulder and I was like, "Excuse me," and he's like, "Yeah," and he's probably thinking someone's going to come up and like bother him. I was like, "Just real quick, I just want to say I shook Appa's hand," and he was like, "Oh," he was okay, yeah, he was into that, but yeah, because I've been rewatching that recently, and
Such
it's
a great
so
show.
smart. The thing
Nice,
about
all right.
I think distinguishes really good sitcoms from like the sitcoms that give it a bad name.
Yeah.
Basically, the reason why we all kind of like crap on sitcoms is the intelligence factor. I
Yeah.
think that's why Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm and I'm clearly painting myself into a corner on that one, but like the intelligence factor that goes into the comedy really kind of sticks. This kind of has that.
Yeah, it's about a Canadian Korean family who has like a convenience store, and he plays like the dad who runs the shop, and it's all about his kids, and most of the time it's about the kids, but they're all in their like 20s and 30s. And the guy who plays the older son is the one who was in
Yeah.
yeah.
He was kind of the breakout actor of that one.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then the guy who plays his buddy has got a new movie or TV show coming out it's about a Korean family too. Funny shit. There's actually Plex actually has a Kim's Convenience channel that streams nothing but episodes of their show.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's how I discovered it, because when I decided to stop paying for YouTube television, because it was like $70 a month for like streaming television with local programming, I was like, you know what, Plex has free streaming shit. I'll just lean into that, because they have a bunch of channels. A lot of them are actually kind of like off-brand channels that play shows from big cable channels. So there's like 6 different channels that have content from like History Channel or Discovery Channel that plays nothing but those types of shows.
Can you find Jesse the Body Show on there?
No, although
He's been scrubbed from the internet.
That's what
dude, yeah. So yeah, when we were over talking, we went over and got to meet Jesse the Body Ventura. I said, "Hey, man, you were my favorite commentary on WWF, and I loved conspiracy theory." He goes, they scrubbed the internet of my show. You can't find it anywhere. And I'm like, okay, yeah, and probably, because there was some things you talked about in the show that the government doesn't want people to see, right? He's like, yeah, exactly that. And so I when I walked away, I pulled up on my phone, the Jesse Ventura Conspiracy Theory TV show. So 2 of the 3 seasons are available on Amazon. The season that isn't available is, interestingly enough, the one that has an episode about the Kennedy assassinations and Area 51.
No.
So
Well,
there you go.
there you go, Jesse. He looked good too.
He looked great.
He's
He looked
like
great.
80-something years old, but he looked like he could bench press a bus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
A Volkswagen bus, but still a bus.
and he liked to talk.
Oh, he was
very friendly. Very nice.
All you have to say is conspiracy, and he will talk for
plus
20
he's-
minutes.
Make you a goddamn sexual tyrannosaur.
He'll always be from Predator for me,
yeah,
like no matter
great.
what. Yeah.
Predator's the most macho film of all time. It's like they're all just like, I
But
bet,
you can
that,
just watch.
I bet it was great to be on that
what
set.
is it? That
I bet it
arm
was a
scene
delight.
where they just put
Yeah.
their
Oh, yeah,
arms.
Carl
yeah,
Weathers
perfect.
and
That
My
sums it
bicep
all
and
up.
your bicep.
I read an
man,
article
it's
years
great.
ago about the making of that, and they talked about how all those guys were just competing with each other.
Oh,
like
yeah.
one guy
Oh,
would
yeah, I
start
don't doubt
working out in the thing, and the other guys would come out.
That's
Yeah.
probably where the whole when they both flex as they
it's
shake each
great.
other's hands. That's probably where that came from.
That's what that entire movie is right there.
Yeah, it
just
sums up kind of a decade.
The chopper.
Can we put some sci-fi in this? Something else? Like maybe something about mud, but let's just keep it about, that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dyer, did you grow up in Tacoma? Are you a Tacoma kid or what?
No, I'm a South Tacoma kid at heart, I guess. I'm just a big kid. And I'm a South Tacoma kid now. I just say I'm from the Northwest.
Okay.
Kirkland,
Leave it at that.
Spokane, Olympia.
Oh, geez.
All
All right.
Northwest.
Seattle area, Issaquah. I just kind of jumped over Portland. So I kind of just hopped. And in my adult life, I just kind of go where like the jobs were. So I lived on a boat for a long time. Was a newspaper reporter. Which is the greatest living situation I've ever had, because when I had to move, there was like no boxes.
You own 3 articles.
Exactly.
I grab my coat and my jeans and
Yeah.
So would you just like move your boat to a different moor?
Right. So I was living at the wharf at Bainbridge Island, which is a really good place. But they had Seattle prices essentially, because it's a Bainbridge Island.
Yeah, that's like they're almost like how people talk about Mercer Island here on the east side.
Yeah. Oh, it's exactly that. But
Just
when
squat on a boat out
when
in the
I moved
harbor.
over to the next town over to Paulsbo, all of a sudden, like my mortgage rent was like $250.
Wow, that's
my
great.
rent was $250, and I just could not like argue with that. Yeah.
I spent a lot up until about 2 years ago. I lived in Hansville for 5 years, so that's like 10 minutes away from the nearest, or 20 minutes from the nearest grocery store. So the Safeway right off of the highway leading out of Paulsbo. I was on that, lived down that road, way down there.
Kitsap's
Yeah, that's pretty over there.
But long story short, I just put my hand on the map in the Northwest and say there.
That's
Right
where
on.
I'm from. Yeah.
Well, since you were a newspaperman, can newspapers be saved, and should newspapers be saved? 10 seconds left.
Yes and yes. Here's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm a newspaper reporter in my core, always, no matter where I go. I'm a newspaper reporter as my foundation. I somehow ended up in radio. I spent a hot minute in TV. But I kind of just went the route of where essentially the industry is going, which is essentially is online, and it's electronic and it's on demand. Podcasts and radio is finally learning that this podcast thing might be a thing. The newspapers can be saved. The problem is you have folks that don't have any journalism experience. They all come from marketing and business degrees, and they're put in charge. They don't know how to actually run a business. They know how to get hired and come in and just pull the levers that were there before them. So let's just sell a bunch of ads, right? And let's just throw the newspaper on people's front door and tell people that they subscribed. They don't really know how to progress to where people are at right now, which is on-demand, online, podcasts. There's so many innovative things. They're not even innovative. There's just so many things they can do that are now that exist. Right. They just don't know how to advance to them, and they have to pay the bills too. So they don't know how to do that and safely pay the bills. So newspapers can be the way I liken it to is horses and buggies went away and the car came along and hit the road, but transportation didn't go anywhere, right? Sure. We still need reporters. We still need someone to actually give us at least a basis of what's going on.
The tools have changed.
The tools have changed. So in my opinion, newspapers will still continue, but it won't be paper. It'll be...
Sure.
I think what we're living through right now is essentially what journalism and our country, the world went through in about the 1920s when printing presses became so cheap and everybody could just have a newspaper. Like, you want a newspaper? Do it. It's great. It's so cheap, and everybody did it. And next thing you know, it was like the internet on paper back then.
Yeah. And a lot of business influence.
A lot of business influence. I mean, this is how Howard Hughes rose up. And so... anybody can kind of do it. Next thing you know, you just had a lot of people barking at each other. Well, I read it in this newspaper. Well, you need to do your research because I read it in this newspaper. Yeah. We're kind of experiencing that right now. And I think what's eventually going to happen is things are going to kind of settle into place, and people are going to start... the critical thinking aspect is going to kind of come back into, at least my fingers crossed, is going to come back into it, and eventually we'll move forward with like websites and so forth being...
I think we still need something with enough clout to put demands on policymakers, et cetera, and to make sure that we do, as a populace, have access to the chambers of power, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And typically that came from larger newspapers and freedoms of press. I don't know. I'm all for, subsidizing print.
I
really am. I'm totally, because it's, it's the only business that's kind of mentioned. It is the only business mentioned in the Constitution, right?
If you would have asked me years ago, it brought that up, I would have disagreed with you so wholeheartedly. I totally have U-turned on that whatsoever. I think there is definitely a place for some sign of public financing thing in news and journalism, particularly at the local level. And if I were to rain on the parade of everything I've been talking about here, Seattle Times is going to be fine. New York Times is going to be fine. They're organizations that are going to keep going. The problems are the Seattle Times is never going to go to a city council meeting on Bainbridge Island or Mercer Island. They're just never going to be there. Sure. And this is my soapbox moment. The stuff that actually matters to your life is not the hot sensational headline that is miles and miles away. That stuff is important, but the stuff that matters is the boring shit. Right. That's the stuff that influences and affects your life. It's so stale, and so it bores me, and I had to cover it, right?
Sure.
The only time anybody paid attention mostly to reporting I did out of the City Hall in Bainbridge Island was when a fist fight broke out. But the boring stuff is what affects you. Sure. In Seattle right now, everybody is paying attention because somebody climbed a tree, right? Because the tree canopy is being lost in Seattle. But it took someone to do something sensational to do it. However, the boring stuff has been reported on Seattle's tree ordinances and so forth for years now. But because people don't pay attention to the non-sensational stuff, you could have started there.
Sure.
You could have started with the policy and the reportings that were already happening on the ground. That is what affects your life. And then you would not have to be going to the bathroom in a bucket to save a tree. You could have just gotten it from the ground. Yeah. So, pun intended. The boring stuff, my soapbox to finish off, is the stuff that matters, and that's the stuff we're losing, because when the local press goes away and the small newspapers go away, that is when people aren't going to know what their local groups, and I'll tell you, that's when the corruption,
absolutely, no doubt about it.
You run for your little small town government that nobody's watching, you can just do whatever.
Because they just get rid of transparency laws.
That's why our town is hopefully going to do a candidate forum here next month.
Yeah, hard-hitting. Oh, yeah. I think we should have some type of Jello wrestling ring.
That would be great.
Dude.
I don't know if we can get away with that on the stage.
Yeah.
Combine it all. Because policymakers, right, it's they're not... I don't want them to behave as celebrities. I want the sausage to be made slowly, thoughtfully. Yeah. I will never agree with it, right? Because that's just who I am. Yeah. But I just want to know and have the faith that it's being slowly, methodically processed.
The spices are evenly sorted.
Fucking A, dude. Because democracy is based on the idea that you get extraordinary results out of ordinary people, right? Not my idea, but it's sound, and that we're making policies to benefit the future, right? That we have faith in the future, right? Yeah. And so we need transparency in government and the halls of power, no matter where they might be, right?
Elections, I think, are very important because you when you get somebody in there, and I've seen it happen, who really is just the cranky neighbor, right? Yeah. But they're not so much good at actually being a governing person, they don't really know how to do the bills and all, but they're really good at being the cranky neighbor.
So good at complaining.
Yeah, you know when that happens, and that's when you make a policy. It's not really all that great moving forward, and I mean when you see it happen, you kind of know it, and you're like, maybe we should have not have done that.
But it sounded, and it was
a good idea at the time. Right, and he had Jello.
I know. Oh,
was it lime Jello though?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I'm into.
It should be just.
Well, you can actually get large quantities of gelatin from Amazon. I know this only because.
How do you know this?
Because I had friends who used to run room parties at conventions and stuff.
Need a really big refrigerator to get it all set up.
They got it was the no coloring or flavoring. It was just large amounts of gelatin. They could put into an inflatable pool, and they had Jello wrestling in one of the room parties.
It sounds fun. I don't know if it really is.
You say there's a lot of vodka. There was a lot of vodka involved with that.
Well, okay, you got me.
Oh my goodness!
I'll get sticky for some.
That was Biohazard. They still do conventions. They do room parties for conventions. I think
Who's the cleanup crew for that?
They go to they go to the horror convention, the one that happens here in Crypticon.
Yeah, no, it's great. Oh, yeah.
They used to go to like NorwestCon and RustyCon, but I think those two conventions are no longer. RustyCon has at least gone away, but NorwestCon, which is a literary sci-fi convention, I think they've cut back on the room parties and stuff.
I'm going to hijack this conversation to talk about vodka and Jell-O. Have you guys ever had essentially alcoholic gummy bears?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's the worst idea ever.
It's like Jell-O shots, but in the form of a bear.
So we're since we're going through my the many lives I've lived of video store, newspaper, podcaster. I used to be a Bavarian housekeeper.
Of course you were,
Of course.
They have a festival for everything in Bavaria, and one of these things they had like just a big bonfire. So a bunch of the hotel workers were going to go up in Garmisch. If you know Germany, you know where that's at. They're just going to go up the hill and have a big bonfire. And someone made a bunch of these Jell-O or these bear shots with Bacardi 151.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, that's
I didn't know
business.
what was going on. But I had to walk up this hill, which was hard enough. Downhill's usually
fire.
supposed to be great. Yeah. They're like, hey, shoot this. Okay, I shoot this or whatever. Nothing happened. But I think about 30 minutes later, when I was walking down that hill, those gummy bears melted. And I didn't, thank God, but I felt like I was going to soil myself. It was just, it like hits you all at once, and your legs turn to Jell-O.
Yeah.
And then I could not get off that mountain after that point. I somehow did. I don't remember how, but yeah.
Friends.
Don't eat the gummy bears. I'm telling you.
Don't eat the gummy bears. Yeah, so I haven't gone to a room party at one of those conventions in a very long time, because the last time I did, I was stuck on that floor for about 4 hours because I couldn't find my way out of that part of the hotel.
You have arrived.
Man.
Oh, yeah.
Boys, we are
Whoa.
coming up on time limits, but before we go, I wanted to ask each of you a two-part question. Not really two parts, two questions in one. What is on your nerdy bucket list, and who would you call your favorite nerd, like your favorite celebrity nerd? Todd, why don't you go first?
Will Wheaton has to be like the number one nerd. Or geek rather. I mean, he's more of a geek than a nerd anyhow. But and I've always said that the difference between a nerd and a geek is nerds tend to be more about technical things and science. So like they're all about gadgets and whatnot, and geeks are all about pop culture and fandoms. So
The way I put it is the nerd works at NASA and the geek works at the comic shop.
There you go.
yeah,
There
or
could be a Venn diagram
Comic-Con.
going on. But
But yeah, I've always said that Will Wheaton is like I would vote for him as king of the geeks or the nerds. So,
All right.
Yeah.
What would be on your bucket list? Your nerdy, geeky bucket list? What would the one thing you'd like to do?
I would definitely like to. I would definitely like to go back to the Galaxy's Edge and spend just like a week there.
Cool.
just so I could wander around and really take in everything, because I was there for 2 days and it didn't feel like it was long enough because there was so much to see, and I was just like in awe of everything. In fact, I mean, I've talked about this before, but when I first got there, that was the first thing I wanted to see at Disneyland was the Galaxy's Edge. My sister was having trouble keeping up with me because I was like in a hurry to find the Millennium Falcon. And as soon as I got there, I saw how big the ship was. I actually gasped and said, "Oh my God, it's huge!" And I immediately started sobbing, like I just I just saw like a long lost family member, or something that brought me back to me being like 6 years old, seeing the movies for the first time.
Nice.
And yeah,
I had the same experience when I saw the Enterprise show up on Picard, and I started getting emotional.
oh dude,
And then my wife started getting a little irate with me because I didn't even cry at our wedding. She points this out to me. It's like, you told me you couldn't cry. You saw the Enterprise once.
How long have you been married?
We eloped in the pandemic,
Nice.
which was the right idea because everybody went a little nuts during that time, and we were just like, screw this, we're gonna go. And so it was 2020. We eloped.
Congratulations.
Now, are you talking about seeing the D for the first Wars, Tom, on Picard? Or are you talking about the whatever the newest letter number? Or
no, it
Enterprise?
was the
D.
Again, spoiler alert, but
The D.
the D when it shows up. Yeah,
I got a couple more seasons
Dude.
to watch of that. What would be
I just
on
read
your what would be on your bucket list to do, and who would your favorite celebrity nerdy geek be?
so it's a real person.
Well, okay. I mean, we are pretty free flow here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
If it's a fictional person, but if I could ever just have him around me at all times, Moz from the IT crowd, I think is just
Moss? Yes.
Moss, yeah, is just my favorite.
Have you tried an unexpected reboots?
Yes. I can't think of him and not put a smile on my face. That
Richard Ayoade.
that's another very
And he's
quotable-
actually very much a geek in real life too, by the way.
Oh yeah, I mean, just for that show in general.
Unlike some other people, Sheldon Cooper, he's not really a geek.
My wife has had to put up with me going, "Oh damn my electric sex pants" a lot.
Father.
As far as my nerdy bucket list, oh gosh, I'm gonna pick. I like road trips. I'm going to pick this one. I like road trips, so I kind of have this idea of doing kind of a little bit of a Star Trek road trip. We mentioned Riverside, Iowa earlier. So that would kind of be on it, but going up to Vulcan and then popping down to Riverside, Iowa, and then kind of just do those little hidden gems, you know, around and kind of do like a loop and then come back. It would basically be a road trip around the United States, but it would be all based on any sort of pop culture reference, anything.
Yeah, actually, that's a great idea. I'm gonna steal that. But I would definitely, as far as like, go back to Southern California, and there is a bar in L.A. Down the street from the Grumman's Theater, or whatever it's called now, but it's called Scum and Villainy.
Yeah, I went there.
Nice.
I made a little video on Northwest Nerd for that. It is a great spot. And the thing is, it's not just talk about Star Trek, Star Wars. The front is Star Trek. And they don't really show that because it's pretty basic. It looks like you're just in like a hallway of the Enterprise D.
Nice.
And because they had this front area, they didn't know what to do with it, and then the back area, it's like you're at Bad Aibling or
Because one of the things that
Mos Eisley, sorry, Bad Aibling's in Germany.
The cantina in Mos Eisley, they actually have a replica.
very similar.
They had a rough Thursday.
Scum and Villainy of Bad Aibling.
I would love for them to open a similar place up here in Washington. It doesn't have to be
we could
Seattle.
even get AFK to stick around.
Well,
right?
you know that bar is not licensed. It's Star Wars like, but they don't really say anything particularly.
Yeah, there's nothing labeled in there
Oh,
because
yeah, no,
Kevin
Disney
Smith actually
has
records one of his
lawyers.
podcasts there.
Oh.
Yeah.
He records the Fat Man Beyond.
Geez, I bet that's not hurting their business any. That's
But
bad.
So yeah, to round that up, the road trip thing. I kind of like taking the uncommon route. My brother is in the military, so he would always be someplace else on the planet for like birthdays and Christmases, and he'd send me gift cards to restaurants. But he doesn't really like looks at what's around me. So like there's no Longhorn Steakhouse around here, and I'm like the closest one's in Salt Lake City. So I had like 5 restaurant gift cards and plotted a course through like
God, that's
Nevada.
awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Just so I could use the gift cards and all that.
fantastic.
So I did that and stopped in like Boise and Nevada and
That's
Salt Lake City.
Brilliant. I think I'm going to start doing that to my son. Just give him some random restaurant. And,
Yeah.
you know.
If they, is it okay to ask where your son resides?
Oh, he's here in Renton for now.
Okay, so
yeah,
then you give him a gift card that is only good in like Colorado.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
He's got to go drive out there.
Yeah, somewhere in Arkansas.
So I would find all the little pop culture things.
Get him a
and go
gift
to
card
those.
for the Jedi Temple over in Spokane.
There you go.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
What about you, Mike? What would be a bucket list nerdy item?
Well, geez, my favorite nerd right now, because for years it was like Carl Sagan, right? But
Oh, okay.
I mean, God bless. But
Neil deGrasse Tyson,
I
right?
Damn it! I should have picked that one.
Well, I just heard Richard Feynman, who was a Caltech physicist right after the war. He worked on the Manhattan Project and a bunch of other shit. And he was a young, good-looking, studly physicist who kind of reignited America's interest in such things, right? And he came up with a thought experiment called the cataclysm sentence. So if you could have one sentence to tell the future after, so Earth has just suffered a cataclysm, you have one sentence that you can tell the upcoming species.
They're all dead, Dave.
orchids, yeah, whatever it might be. So what would that sentence be? And just that thought experiment, I think, is fucking great. And then his
Thanks
answer
for the
to that,
fish.
yeah, so long. Thanks for
fish
all
of the day.
fish.
Travel outcome.
Yeah. So yeah, Richard Feynman, I like that guy, and he had a great sense of humor. He's fairly famous.
He was talked about quite a bit in The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, sure. No, he's a big deal. He's
Yeah.
a big deal. And a very thoughtful.
One of Sheldon Cooper's
very-
heroes.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like that should be the ending of all your podcasts. Is what is your cataclysmic sentence?
Yeah, no, it's a good one.
That
It
was a
really is.
mistake.
His is fucking badass.
Yeah,
I can't. I wouldn't do it justice.
okay.
But
I'll have to look it up.
no, because he's that guy.
Yeah.
And then my bucket list item, and I can't believe you guys didn't bring this up, to go to the ice planet of Hoth, and somebody cut open a tauntaun and
So you
stuffed
can
me in
sleep
the
in?
fucking side. I want to
Tauntaun
sleep in a
sleeping bag?
tauntaun. Yes.
I am too hygienic for that.
Here's a little bit trivia for you guys. Did you know that the Tauntaun sleeping bag became a thing because ThinkGeek.com, which is no longer around, they just goes to GameStop now, but ThinkGeek used to do products on April Fool's Day that were not real. And they got so much demand for the Tauntaun sleeping bag that they actually got the license to
my God.
actually
It's a
make
great
them.
idea. And no, I don't have a tauntaun.
There's I think it's either O'Reilly's or AutoZone, where you can actually search by part number on their auto website.
Yeah.
If you put in this one code, and I'm so stupid I didn't remember, but if you put in this one product code, it brings you to a flux capacitor.
Yeah, they actually sell those. You can. That's where all the DeLorean people get their flux capacitors for their car.
Awesome.
And that is one of the next generation things that I love is the Heisenberg compensators. I use it all the time because it's like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, right? It's like you can either know the spin or trajectory of a particle, or you can know its speed, right? You can't know where it is
And how to make
and
blue
how
math.
it's moving at the same time, right? It's totally neat.
Is
But
this
so-
the wave versus?
no, that's a separate thing.
Okay.
Yeah, the wave particle duality or whatever.
Yeah.
That's it. But
Bouncing.
But it's neat. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle is really a cool thing. But so what is a Heisenberg compensator doing? Right? I think it's just two words that they loved, and they're like, no, it's a thing on the ship now.
It sounds. They know Heisenberg was a big name in science, so
Oh,
they
yeah,
used
no,
that
it's
as
great.
name as a thing. Yeah.
Well, I think I would go with Henry Cavill.
oh, sure.
You know,
Yep,
Superman?
yep.
Super
The Witcher.
nerd,
Yep.
The Witcher.
He's a
Only because I
Warhammer
have
fan.
a slight man crush
Yeah,
on
fuck,
him,
he's a
but
stud.
he's just
Stop it.
a
It's
Do you
gorgeous
like
human
It's a
being.
stud.
Henry Cavill, the show Henry of Henry VIII, when he first emerged on the scene, or do you like I just ate too much creatine, Henry Cavill?
Yeah.
I didn't see the first one, but
Okay.
I'll
Yeah.
go with the creatine.
Yeah.
Okay, all
He's,
right.
Yeah, he's a
And he's a
fella.
Warhammer guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if he's D&D or not, but yeah, he seems like
Joe,
a decent
Joe,
human
what's
being.
his name? Is it? How was that actor's name? He played Deathstroke in the DC.
Oh, Montaigne or not Montaigne.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that guy's great.
He's a massive D&D nerd. He has
Getting a divorce. Him,
Yeah.
Sophia Varga, is that her name?
Longoria. Isn't it Longoria?
No, Varga.
The one from Modern Family. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's Longoria. That's the lady from.
Ava Longoria, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sophia Varga.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
available, fellas. If you're.
Oh, geez. He made a cool Deathstroke or whatever
Yeah,
that
it was
part of the
badass as
Snyderverse
Deathstroke.
or whatever. Yeah, and he was in a cool kind of indie superhero film that I watched. I think it was on Amazon or Netflix, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was great. It was part of the it's an independent movie production company. We'll put it here. Ding.
we won't put it there because I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I'll try to think of it. Oh man, we'll call us Friday.
He'll research and send you a text, Charles.
Yeah, but it's cool because I'm a contributor to some of their films. But and they're doing something with Shatner now. I can't believe I just forgot it. But anyway, he's in it. I bet if we IMDb that guy. But it was a cool low budget, small studio film, and he gave 100%. I really enjoyed his performance.
And he was a superhero?
Yeah, who it has traveled cross dimensional or been forced kind of booted cross-dimensionally. So either he's a crazy person who has lost his powers, or he's a superhero from another dimension. Huh. Yeah, he does a great job.
Okay.
So it proved to me that he could act, and that he wasn't just a good-looking, charming guy.
And you said that's on the Bezos station?
I believe it was. Yeah, something like that.
All right, boys. It has been well over an hour and a half.
Almost 2 hours.
Warm up here, but it's been a great discussion. I want to thank Dyer Oxley for being here once again. Where can we find your work, sir?
Northwest Nerd is done in seasons. I have another season coming up now with some more stuff I've traveled with. And it's also a magazine now, which I do believe the magazines are probably all taken from all the places I put them in across.
Great.
How many did you print?
6,000.
Oh, that's a pretty good.
Great job. Yeah.
Which is all I could do. The long story short, when I told people I want to do this magazine, they might have, if they did their research, they Googled me and said, okay, he's in media. But the attitude that I encountered was, let's see you do it first, And so this is very much a proof of concept type thing. So this thing has been thrown everywhere from like Oregon, Washington, all up and down the coast.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's a magazine. The next one I'm working on now, I wanted to do 2 in a year to kind of do that proof of concept. So hopefully coming to your comic book store, your favorite barcade, not trademarked barcade. Don't get mad at me, barcade. Bar arcade, your favorite one of those, and all that. It'll be coming to you soon.
Can we subscribe to such a thing also?
You can get it digitally right now.
Yeah.
So how do we get our podcast plastered all over the cover of it?
What's that?
So how do we get our podcast plastered somewhere in your magazine?
Well, I'll sell you an ad.
There you go. Ad space is real.
I made an ad for some of my friends on that one just to show what ads would look like. I put Egypt, our friend Egypt.
I saw Egypt in there. Yeah. I was like, oh, he's got an ad.
Some of those ads were sold.
Modeling ad.
Some of those ads were sold, and then the other one is like Egypt. I have a quarter of a page. I'm going to put your face on.
Yeah, right. Well, they'd never heard anything, right? That guy. He is a model. He really is. Oh no, that guy. It's corny.
Well, we just spent $6 or $7.56 to have Mike's cat take pictures of us. Did a horrible job, and then we just spent $18 on a Cartman impersonator.
Yeah. You guys showed Dyer that.
Yeah, great.
Just perfect advertising, man. We're gonna get millions of views.
Comes. Yeah, no, here it
He's
comes.
definitely gonna help.
Revenue stream.
People are gonna see his Cameo video on his profile on Cameo and go, we should check out that podcast.
Yeah.
He talked about it for all
stuff.
2 minutes.
All right, guys. Well, thanks everybody for being here. This has been a great discussion, and I hope to do it again soon. If you are not a subscriber, go to r-townpodcast.com and become a member. It's only $3 a month or $30 a year, and it's a great value. You get extra show, you get blogs, you get funny derp videos. What else do we got?
We'll take you to Hoth and put you into a tauntaun.
Exactly.
You can't get that for $3.
It links to all of our social medias. Oh, by the way, we're now on Twitter.
Yeah,
I'm thinking that I'm just going to set it up so that it's automatically like cross posts over there. I'm not going to actively be on Twitter.
All right. Fuck you, Elon. Anyway, so thanks for being here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.
Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. And if you think this episode is worth $1 or $5, the boys would love to have it. Please go to ourtownpod.store for merch or to donate now. For less than a cup of coffee, you can also join the website in the member-only area for exclusive bonus content, blogs, and more. It's just $3 a month or $30 a year. Thank you for listening to this production of Our Town Podcast Extraordinaire.